Hi, I'm Avital Ash.
I'm Jessica Richards.
And this is...
He's right behind you.
Ah!
He's right behind you.
Today.
Ah!
Beautiful. Do it again?
Ah!
I'll work on it.
That's good. No, I just liked it, so I wanted to hear it again. Do you want to do a third? Okay, that one was something else. I don't know what that was. Our guest today is Rose McIver.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you. Thank you
you
for watching a horror movie for us.
Oh my God, it was definitely challenging, especially because I left it till the last minute and had no other choice but to watch it alone late at night in my house.
I thought for sure you were doing a daytime thing because you said you don't like horror movies.
Yeah, I'm normally really, really sensitive to them, but this is such a unique experience, this film.
Great.
We'll get into it, but yeah, I didn't have my traditional response, which is just kind of a shutdown and want to look away. I was
great.
so engaged with it that I, in really weird ways, found it kind of comforting.
Ooh, I love that.
So that was different for a horror film, but it had all the jump scares. It has the stuff that still makes me feel kind of sick. But
well, thanks for braving it for us.
Thank you.
So you are an actor, director, writer. Do you care about the order of those things? What do you want people to know about you?
I try. I'm having a go at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm a /, we call it. But
Yeah,
just
slashy.
Just trying it. I have acted. That's been most of my life, and I'm a very novice.
Your
and
first
amateur
role was
writer
the
director.
piano, or was that not your first?
Yeah, no.
When you were a little baby.
Well, it's fairly indulgent to call it a role. I was very much a featured background, but they used my name, so
yeah, and it's part
I
of
got to
history.
Exactly. But no, I didn't. I don't think I had to bring too much character development. To
You didn't have a lot of method.
No, not really. Although, as I've pointed out to people before, I really needed to pee on set, and it is one of my earliest memories because I was 3 and I needed to pee, and the AD said "Oh no, it looks cute" because I was supposed to be a kid in a school production, and I'd cross my legs because I was desperate to go to the toilet. They're just roll on that, it looks good. And I was but I need to use the bathroom. And it is kind of, it stuck with me.
Yeah. That's so stressful as a kid.
Yeah, but it did look good in the show.
And you've continued to act?
Continued to
You've done
act.
100 seasons of iZombie?
I did. We did 5. We had such a good run. I had a really nice group of people. We filmed, this show for 5 years, iZombie, and we finished that last year. And so now I'm kind of working out what's the new normal. I feel like I finished high school a little bit, and I'm out starting.
But
the
you're
world
already
again.
on a new show, you were just saying.
I am. I have just started working on a new show for Hulu called Woke that it's such early days. We're in the first episode right now, but I'm having a really good time on.
You're on the first episode right now.
Oh, I just finished my first episode, yep.
Oh, congratulations. And you just did a play with Andy Garcia.
I did a play. I'm just kind of trying everything I can right now. I'm every different direction. This show has a bit more improv in it, and doing a play last year was great. I haven't done a play in 9 years, and I directed a short film.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so spoiled that I have.
And
the
did
luxury
you
of
write
being
that
able
short
to.
too?
I did, yeah.
I want to talk a bit about that. Is it coming out? What's the story with your short?
I'm not sure really. I've just submitted it to festivals and things. It was a huge learning experience for me. I did the Warner Brothers Directors Workshop when I was filming iZombie in the hopes that we could direct, but we didn't get renewed. So so I was what's another way I can explore this this outlet? And so I made a little short film and worked with friends and learnt so much. So
shout out to Lucia. Who
oh
we had
yeah,
on this
Lucia.
podcast.
Yeah, she was great.
God, she's so good. She's so great. And she has the best hair I think I've
Oh
ever
my
seen.
gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not
Amazing
to be
hair.
reductive, but that hair is
She's so much more than hair, but
Yeah.
also it's great hair.
yeah,
And
that's a great
face,
cherry
all
on
of
top.
it.
Yeah, I know.
She's a great interior and exterior.
yeah, package deal. that
Yeah. She's all of it. So what was the impetus for the short? I watched it. It was beautiful, very well done.
I am always just so intrigued about how kind of complicated and cruel we can be to the people we love the most and we're closest to. And I think in even the most sort of beautiful friendships that I've had my whole life, there have been elements of that, and both parties would agree. I've talked to a lot of my friends about that and about that kind of almost sabotaging desire that you have. Sometimes it's testing how far you can push it. And so I just kind of wanted to explore that. I also I think in people trying to make all these strong female characters, it's we're steering away from seeing real flawed people. And I feel like we need to see those and be okay with those more. So it was just kind of exploring how we could do that without vilifying someone, just kind of understanding why people can treat each other like that.
Oh my
It
gosh,
kind of
I'm
goes
such
with
an-
this film,
I was just
too.
thinking the same thing.
All those things I think you could apply.
I was thinking about that at first, how flawed our heroine of the Babadook is, and then
And
I
how
was like,
mean they are to each other.
right.
She is to her son,
Yeah.
and her son is to her, and her sister is to her and her son, and the cousin.
It's part of why I liked it. I found it. I don't trust or get swept up in or have compassion for characters when I can't see things that I find accessible, and those tend to be flaws, you know.
I also just realized this is where my brain went, where I was like, oh my gosh, which is that your friend, Katie, who was at Nick's birthday party, I was like, I know her. Oh, right, from your house. And then now I'm like, oh God, she's in your short. That's why I was like, I know this person.
There you
I
go.
had met her, but I really recognized her from your short without connecting that was her.
She is such
great.
a great actor. Katie
She
Parker. She goes
is.
by Catherine Parker for work.
Okay, great. But
I'm a
I'm
big fan.
such an idiot. I just now was like, that's her. That's
You are
why.
an idiot.
I'm a
But we love
moron.
each other, and that's part of our complex relationship.
Yeah, we're mean to each other, but it's all out of love. That's great. I hope it gets seen by a lot of people. I hope people have the
Thanks.
opportunity to see it.
Thanks. Well, it's like we were talking about before. It's just, whether it's learning stand-up or learning improv or trying to write or whatever, it's like just the amount that opens up and the kind of brain capacity that widens in the rest of your life, I think, when you do
Yeah.
that is really helpful. It's why I think, you hear people say a lot, like, everyone should do improv, whether you're a manager at a bank or whatever you are. It's about learning how to do, how to handle a circumstance in a present moment. And
Yeah.
that's definitely the next thing that I really want to work on. I want to learn that a lot more.
Improv or directing? Improv.
Improv.
And was this your first time directing?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I want to do that too. I want to do it all. That's why I chose to be an actor. You get to kind of have a little bit of everybody's life. It's the greediest, most indulgent existence. I'm so spoiled.
That's true. It's great. Is there something that you feel like you learned as an actor from directing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure there was nothing that's kind of popping
You're
into
already
my-
the best actor. There was nothing
Exactly.
more for you
There
to
was
learn.
I was running a seminar for Daniel Day-Lewis like a couple of weeks ago, and I gave him some tips. No, I don't know. I'm sure there were lots of things. I guess I was using such a different part of my brain that I won't even really know. It must be all subconscious, whatever I learned.
And probably acting helped as a director for you to be directing actors, to have
Yeah.
an understanding of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly learnt a lot more about leadership and kind of decision making, and there were a lot of other lessons that I felt like I took away more apparently than acting stuff.
Excited to see what you do next.
Cheers.
So what has your relationship been with horror?
So horror, as I think I told you before, the scariest film that I've ever seen was Groundhog Day, because for me it was like anything that is close enough to something I can actually imagine happening. And I don't know why, but the idea of waking up in this cyclic thinking is definitely something I deal with anyway. So the idea of waking up and it was like going to be the same every day was truly haunting to me. But in terms of other horror, I mean, when I was little, I saw The Witches when I was about 4, and that was too young. And that really put me off, I think, for a bit.
Was that the one with Angelica Houston?
It's like a Roald Dahl.
Yeah, it's so good. It's
I remember that one freaking me out when I was a
Yeah,
kid, too.
it was
Some of
really-
the imagery.
yeah, really stuck with me. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched a ton. I know that I can be really jumpy, and if it's something that I can imagine happening in real life, like I tend to be. It's more like a thrillery thing that will haunt me than anything. As soon as it gets crazy far-fetched, I sort of check out a little bit.
So with Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
were you actually afraid? Like, did you have trouble sleeping
Yeah.
that night?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember staring out my bedroom window, just like looking at it was like late at night, and I remember thinking, I wonder if I can keep watching it till the sun comes up and if it will be a new day the next day. Like it was really, I know it sounds like a bit, but it was really, those kind of ideas are much more like they get under my skin, I guess.
It actually
that's
makes a lot of sense.
interesting.
With you were saying, being an actor, you get to try out all of these different lives, and that's what appeals to you. And so it makes so much sense that what's scary is being stuck in repetition.
Yeah,
doing
I guess
the same thing over and over.
Yeah, any monotony is quite terrifying to me. But it's funny because like the Babadook, I found so, at the start, I by the way, is the Babadook here right now?
I'm hearing those feet. I'm hearing him. It's terrifying.
Oh my God.
I keep
See,
hearing noises
that's
too.
probably
It's
why
freaking
it's under
out.
my skin. It can happen. No, I do have a funny thing where like I find sometimes because I've lent towards depression and a lot of I've had mental health stuff in my life. I find things which acknowledge that comforting. So even like Melancholia, which is most people
Still haven't seen it, but
most people who come out of that movie are like, this is the most depressing thing I've ever seen. And I did come out being like truly comforted by that. Other people have big questions about happiness, really.
Well, we've touched on this here that a lot of people, and this was not my experience. I'm starting to lean into it, but a lot of people with extreme anxiety actually feel more comfortable watching horror movies because it takes them out of their own anxiety and like lets them invest in this imaginary.
Yeah, I'm a very anxious person, and I like watching movies where I'm following along with the survivor. I'm on that journey with them, and I can go through like this roller coaster of emotions, and then when it's over, I'm okay, and I didn't like.
And it almost validates the kind of sensory stuff that you've been having in general. It's like, oh no, this is an outlet for that.
Right. I'm supposed to be.
I'm supposed to feel these things, and this is a place where they fit in, where it's not like.
And I'm so paranoid of like getting murdered.
Yeah.
So like watching horror movies and stuff, it's also very like therapeutic. Of like, see, it can happen.
Yeah. See,
these are the mistakes people make.
That's where I find that such a stretch. Like I get weirdly, I'm so irrational in every other aspect of my life, but quite rational about how unlikely that is. And so for me, when it's like a killer kind of thing, I'm much less engaged, and I think, and then I just get like the frights from the moments, and I just don't enjoy it. But I think when it's a really psychological thing, I feel like, when you've created your own monsters, anything around that kind of realm is like gets into the spot where I really connect with it, or I'm drawn to it.
I feel very proud of making this recommendation because we've had conversations about mental health, and I was like, "Oh, this is one of my favorite horror movies for that reason."
It's so good. It's so well done, and such a weird combo between very grounded and very stylized, and definitely very accessible. Like if you have felt like you've got kind of any monsters in your mind at any point.
And if you don't, wow.
Yeah.
Hats off to
If you don't, can you give me a call? I'd
Yes,
love
please.
to hear the secret.
Leave us tips. Please write a review specifically just giving us tips on not feeling
How
crazy.
to not find monsters in your head.
Yeah. Is there something that scares you most in life?
Well, it's funny because my therapist would say it's uncertainty and that I like to know what's happening.
Which is interesting because at the same time you're terrified of monotony, which is sort of the opposite of...
And also I chose a career where I don't know anything that's happening more than like an hour in advance, and that doesn't unsettle me at all. It's more like I like to kind of have a read sensitivity-wise on what's going on. Like I don't like uncertainty of how other people feel or whether somebody's taking something away from a situation. If I have a conversation with a friend and they're uncomfortable when they leave, that will be like, I can vouch for this because Rose told me something the other night, which was fine and not a problem at all. And then she apologized for the next 6 hours in person and over text. I can be fearful about how I've impacted people like that. And uncertainty about I want to be able to fix it and make it right. And if I can't do that, then that can be quite challenging.
I relate to that.
That's, control stuff, guys.
I wonder if there's a good horror movie that speaks to that. I mean, this has elements
or
for sure
one.
Of losing.
Yeah.
What was?
Or right one. Right?
Yeah.
Like, take that out. It's our idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that is a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
Like she is losing control in this too. Even though it seems more depression and grief oriented. Is there an image either from a movie or a book or your own life experience that sticks out as like the most scary or horrific thing you've ever seen?
Good question. I feel like, not that's coming to mind immediately. I'm thinking about what I saw last night in Babadook. Like her falling, that opening shot, where she's falling onto the bed, and that sense, that feel, that's kind of the same. That's the uncertainty. That's the no anchor, no grasp on reality, like that feeling. I thought that embodied really well. It almost dance-like elements in some parts of the film, and that I thought was that's a funny thing. It's like I feel like I think so dark sometimes that the scariest things are almost comforting now. Like it's looking into the abyss that sort of feels like both the thing that's most terrifying and is also where I know in a not to get too morbid on it way, but like when she's falling like that, I felt really confronted, but then comforted by what I was seeing. Like
it's actually perfect for this movie because the whole point is the not facing it is so much more gruesome and scary than just
the more you deny, the more I come in. What is it he says?
The more you deny me, the stronger I get.
Yeah. The more you deny me, the stronger I get. So and I feel like that's been my life has been working towards not denying, and so maybe sometimes when I see that in art, it sort of wakes up the little kid in me, and it can be momentarily kind of scary and then really comforting because I'm like, okay, I'm here, I got this.
And you don't feel as alone because you're like somebody else has this and is able to put images to it.
What about you guys? Have you talked about that before? What you're like an image that is particularly?
We haven't.
I think we did a little bit on the first episode, only because I remember talking about. I mean, the scariest image to me still to this day is from the pilot of the show Twin Peaks.
Oh, right. I remember.
Yeah, where it's like this girl, the whole thing is like this mom is going into the bedroom to be like, Laura, come down for dinner. And she looks and her daughter's not there. Mm-hmm. And then it's revealed that the daughter never came home and she was dead. But that night, she's like, the mom is like grieving and she's laying on the couch and she's thinking about the day. And we'd already seen that scene in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And now we see her re-seeing the scene. And this time she realizes that there was a man hiding in the room that she didn't see.
Okay, that's pretty.
And that always really scared me.
How old were you when you saw it?
5.
Wow, yeah.
But it was just that idea, and like the older I've gotten, I've seen like, things on 2020 or something about how like your brain ignores information that's new that it doesn't need.
Ah.
And, like, so that idea that like she's just going up there because that's what she does every day to be like, come down for dinner. And so the brain's not picking up stuff that is not necessary for survival. Mm-hmm. And then later it's like, I missed something really important. Always like the idea that your brain can
funnel stuff out.
Yeah, that's like actually important and you need it.
Right.
Really scares me. Or like sometimes when I'm driving and then I'm like at my destination and I'm like, wait, how did I get here?
I totally know that feeling.
That always freaks me out.
Yeah.
I mean, I have where I've actually fully suppressed certain memories.
You've had that?
Yeah. I can't remember if I've talked about this on here, but my biological mom died when I was a baby. My mom who raised me was not my biological mom. And the way that I found out, I remember very vividly, she took me out to lunch. I was like homesick from school and she took me to lunch. And later I remember telling somebody that story and they were like, that's weird. You were sick and she took you out to lunch. And she like told me that she wasn't my...
How old were you?
5. 6 maybe. And I remember it very well. Like I remember ordering mashed potatoes and the server came back and said that they were out and I burst into tears. And I remember asking, if my brothers were also biologically adopted or biological or adopted, and they weren't adopted. And then I asked, like, does that mean you love them more than me? I remember it very well, but what I completely blocked out is the day before where I went over to the neighbor's house and somebody was like, who is this little girl? And my friend's father said, oh, this is Toby Ash's daughter, but not her real daughter from Howard's first marriage. And that I came home and I didn't say anything. And the next day on the way to school, I said, are you my real mother? And she was like, we're not going to go to school today. And then she took me to lunch. So it's so weird to have such clear memories of one day.
And you only know the other day because of people telling you?
Because happened? She told me, it was weird. It was like a decade later that I said something about it. And she was like, that's not what happened.
How amazing.
How crazy is that?
I know. Well, I can get, and to talk about uncertainty and fear of uncertainty, I can spiral into what we could all have repressed.
Right.
Who knows what.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've
Would
gone
you
down
want to
that.
know if there's something really terrible?
Well, I think 5 years ago I would have said, yes, tell me everything all the time.
Same.
But I'm sort of
And now,
working on the journey a little more of being like, is there... I hope that my mind... It's amazing what people do to protect themselves, as well. Right. And like how our body tries to... I don't always think... denial's not great. It's not like I'm saying that's great. But I think sometimes our body is smarter than us and there's protection going on for what we can handle and like a burden that we can and can't process and at a particular time of your life. And so I kind of lean now a little bit more into like... I just hope that if God forbid there ever was, it would come at a time, the information would reveal itself at a time that I was fit to cope,
Right. I remember having a conversation with somebody I was dating about if on your deathbed you could find out or not find out that like your whole life had been a lie, maybe that you've been adopted or that and I was an adamant yes and he was an adamant no, and I felt like we just don't get each other. And now
I think I'm a no now.
Yeah,
I really have
same.
made on the back of a
I
lot
didn't
of
understand
therapy.
that at all, and now I'm like, yep.
And I guess that's what I mean about
Depends. I'm so on the fence on that.
really.
Yeah, because I think like stuff like would I want to find out I had been adopted on my deathbed? Probably not.
Right.
But I don't know. There's that movie What Lies Beneath with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And a small spoiler for that is like she finds out that her husband cheated on her and then just carries on with life. And we realize later like that she had repressed it and she didn't remember that. And so then she had spent like years with this person that was like betraying her. And that's like something where I'm like, well, I think I'd want to know that.
Right. I don't know if I would want to know. If it's already coming to an end.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. It's like it's all so brief. Like, and I say this, I actually have more joy in my life than I've had. It's not. This is a comforting kind of feeling, but it's brief, and it's like the things that we put so much importance upon. Like, I don't know, maybe I feel less like they are of as much import as I thought they were. And so now I'm kind of like, I want to be having a good time. And just, if that's
right.
Really, I do. I think I don't need to know everything the same way that I thought that was incredibly important, is to understand and know everything. And now I'm like, maybe it's just all going to be pretty vague, and the moments that reveal themselves can be exciting, and it doesn't have to be a source of frustration or...
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, I'm a big advocate for the truth. And I love, part of why I love the Babadook is it's like speaking to a universal truth. And there's poetry in honesty. And as I'm saying, I wouldn't want to know, I guess what I really mean is I don't want to know when it's too late. And part of my trauma comes from, my parents could have told me. And I didn't have to find out from the neighbor and repress it. But they didn't. And that's where... the truth is better. I think so often it's gonna come out, so you might as well get ahead of it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do, but I think I can get pretty hooked on like looking under every single rock forever.
Right.
And I don't know that is. I think there's different meanings of truth and details.
That's true.
Like knowing
point.
intention and knowing.
Well, sometimes you just have to trust people around you.
Yeah.
Like that's.
And what a crazy thing to do, really.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Because there's always that thing of like, well, I don't want to be a fool. But then at a certain point, when you're like, if you're in a relationship or if you're in a friendship or any kind of relationship, you're like, at a certain point, you have to be like, I am going to live better if I just let go.
Yeah.
And know that you're whatever. And then if it turns out I was wrong, then that's just your fault, not my fault.
Or at least I tried.
Yeah. I'd rather be wrong. I think I used to really want to know the everything. Now I'm like, I'm just kind of going to believe what is in front of me within reason, and then if I turn out to be wrong, that's okay. You just kind of deal with that next chapter. And
right.
Well, we need to flip the thing. It's like if someone's cheated on, it's like she was such a fool.
Which is just crazy.
It's like, why is it not that person's fault for like, why would you trick somebody?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do we blame the person?
But then also, how much do we want to know? And I feel like there was a point at which if I had been cheated on, I definitely would want to know. And Amir and I have talked about it. Like, I'm like, would you want to know? And it's like, well, when did it happen? What were the and by and large, it's like kind of like, no, I don't think I'd want to know. If that was a one-time thing and you're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't
We
wanna know
have
about
a
it.
pre-cheat arrangement.
A pre-cheat.
What?
Yes, Brad and I have a pre-cheat, which is
how
like
does that work?
if you think. If there's someone that you're like, because I feel like usually if you're going to cheat with someone, it's someone you work with or it's someone you're around a lot. So it's like if there's someone that you're around a lot that you have like really strong feelings for and you find that you're starting to feel like maybe there's something there, then like just tell me. Because maybe that means that our relationship has a problem that if we fix it, that feeling will go away. And like, cool. But maybe that feeling means like we're not supposed to be together and let's have a conversation and then we can like part on good terms. And like
This is
Esther Perel
fascinating.
says a lot about that stuff. Have you guys listened to her?
no.
Who, what?
Esther Perel, the
No.
love and intimacy person.
yeah.
She has a podcast called Where Should We Begin? But she talks a lot about, there's more than one way to handle a situation like that, and that for some people it is discretion, and for some people it is full transparency, and for some, you know, like
yeah, that's how I feel. Just because I'm like, once you cheat, it's too late. Like we're not having the conversation now. So if we can have the conversation before, because there's always like a thing where you're like, well, I'm kind of into somebody.
But I also think you can have that being kind of into somebody and not act on it, and it passes.
and so then is it worth picking
Making
a
it a
festering
person,
sore and being
yes.
like, now it's a thing, and
yeah.
but I think there's room for both. Like
Exactly.
it could go either way, and it's kind of a case by case.
Right, and it's so hard to know. I have a very close friend, a couple. I'm friends with both of them. They've been married since like college. They have 2 kids. Like they're wonderful. And their agreement, they've kind of said what you said, which is like, if you're not talking about it, then it's a problem. And they use it in a way that I think is really cool, where he'll be like, I saw this girl today, and she'll be like, ooh, tell me about her, you know, and she had a sort of a crush on like a professor, and then we're kind of using that in the bedroom. And I think that's really cool. I don't know that I could do that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I think I would feel...
Yeah, but it is interesting. Like these conversations have never, like this is so new for people to be feeling safe to have these conversations, and particularly obviously for women to feel like they can have these conversations. Men forever have just had affairs, and women have just sucked it up because there's too much at stake if you get, you know, abandoned or whatever. And now it's like, okay, there are things that happen in life, and how do we talk about it, and how do we normalize circumstances? And I don't know, it's kind of interesting listening to I've got so many friends handling situations like this so differently, and it's
Like,
so
there's no one way.
we're all
Yeah,
like pioneers
exactly.
right now trying to work it out. Like,
yeah.
And every relationship's different.
Right. And knowing what your partner wants. Because, like, if I've never cheated on a man, and hopefully I won't. But, like, if I did, my instinct would probably be to try to clear my conscience and just tell the truth, whereas he would not want to know. And it's more selfish to tell him than it is.
That's always an interesting one, is who are you confessing for?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And that, not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. If that is going to eat me up and destroy the relationship, then it's worth it. But know who you're doing it for.
Exactly. It's not necessarily a generous offer.
Right, exactly.
But I do think that to bring it full circle to Babadook, I think that if it's a fear, if there's something that is like haunting and gnawing away at you and impacting your life in a negative way, it needs to be addressed. Like, I'm not a person who's like, I believe in truth, I believe in exploration, I also believe in just getting on with things, and that sometimes, just having a routine can help and things can pass. But I feel like if, like it is in Babadook, there's a grief or there's a weight that is that profound that it's destroying your life, it is only about naming your fear. Like, you have to, that's where it's decided for you. You have to confront whatever the thing is, or like let the dragon out, or whatever you...
Right, that like we may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with us. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
And again, coming back to relationships, and then we'll really dive into Babadook, but same with relationships where, you might have to address it and confront it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be with your partner.
Yeah.
Like, I can have a crush and vent to a girlfriend about it, and it will pass. And then I haven't stirred up that insecurity or jealousy in my partner for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're dealing with it, it doesn't have to be one person for everything, or your therapist, or...
That's the other thing that I think it may have been Esther Perel who said, where she's talking about, over centuries gone by, we didn't go to one person for everything at all. Like, our husband or wife, or, unfortunately we didn't have as many options back then within society, but they weren't expected to be your confidant and your lover and your
best friend,
economic consultant, and your best friend, and now we do put that pressure, and it's so funny because it's kind of almost more archaic, like in a way, and we think we're being so progressive, but you're
totally right.
Well, it's very isolating.
Yeah.
And it's also just a totally unreasonable expectation of a human being.
Yeah,
We were
absolutely.
talking the other night
setting
about,
it up for failure.
Yes, about poetry and how neither of our partners are into poetry.
Yeah.
And I am.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who I think will come on this podcast. He's wonderful. Who's a poet and like really well versed.
Yeah.
And a huge Leonard Cohen fan like me.
Yeah.
And I feel like theoretically that could be very threatening to someone.
Yeah.
Like, you are going to have this intimate relationship around poetry with another man, and it's like, but that's part of trusting each other, and I'm not going to get that from Amir. So you got to outsource.
And my poor boyfriend George, if I was like trying to force feed him the like poem of the day or whatever, like that's not going to enhance our relationship or make him love poetry.
Right.
If he wants to come to poetry, he'll do it of his own volition. But
Right.
I have friends that I can talk about that with, and
Yeah.
and that, I mean, we talked about how it's so healthy probably to have a bunch of other interests that are not things that you can necessarily get from your partner and that
Right.
keep you open to the rest of the world. And
Yeah, and then you have something to share with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Something
although
to
I wish
bring
he
back.
cared more about
Yeah.
me coming back and sharing poetry. But
we'll do
whatever.
a recital for them. We'll see how it goes.
That would be great.
Some of my early work goes.
Also, I want to add that the scariest image that comes to mind for
Yes,
me was
please.
a nightmare that I had where, and I still see it so vividly. It's basically just this trailer. It was shortly after, so I'd found out about my biological mom, and then I read all these letters she wrote to her sister, and her death was a little mysterious. Didn't know if it had been like a murder, a suicide, or a fall. And I started having these very intense dreams, and there was one of just a trailer with like fire and blood and all of these like severed body parts, and I still think of that as like the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
Did
hopefully
you
I
go
can
to a
put it
dream
in
analyst?
No. But it felt pretty clear that I was like trying to sort out.
The trailer, I wonder, like,
Yeah.
you know, was that somewhere you knew? Was it somewhere?
This is a great question, and I hadn't thought of it till you said it, but I did live in like a trailer in Israel, and that probably was it. And she died in Israel. She not at that time, but so that's interesting. I never thought about that. You should be a dream
How your
analyst.
brain puts it all.
Yeah.
It like takes all these pieces and re-sews them.
Yeah,
back
and how it
together.
seems obvious, but I never asked myself, why a trailer?
Yeah.
I don't think I even really realized it was a trailer till I was trying to describe it.
I've had that in some ways with my parents that, like, my mum was she's one of 4 kids and 2 of them were fostered in. And, like, it only took me being an adult and George saying to me, well, when did they move? You know, when did they move and what was the situation? And you realize you've just breezed over, like, kind of a whole
Right.
chapter of huge importance in your parents' lives. But you hear the narrative in one way for so long that you don't think. And it wasn't even like a huge revelation when I asked them. It was just like, oh, we just didn't sort of think to share that part. And you
Right.
realize that all these sort of sections that you've sort of patched over that have just become part of your story without investigation or like
Right, like almost hearing Beatles songs without ever
Yeah.
really listening to a
Yeah,
Beatles song.
exactly.
And all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, this is beautiful. It was just always something you knew without
yeah,
really looking at it.
yeah, for sure.
Ooh. Which is kind of, now moving into the Babadook, his relationship with his dad. It's like
Yeah.
he knows he exists, but he's not allowed to have a real relationship with him.
Yeah,
That was so hard to watch.
Oh, I mean,
That's
I love this
heartbreaking.
movie. We'll try as best as we can to sort of go chronologically.
But also like what we were talking about a second ago with like feeling isolated in your partner. And that's how I felt like a lot of isolation between the two of them of
Yeah.
like just being in that house alone with each other. Like,
Oh, that house. It's like this gray dollhouse. It's
Oh my
kind of
God.
amazing.
I know at the
know,
end I
what
was like,
about-
move. Just, I mean, like, I know you're starting over, but maybe move.
What about the friend saying like my mum doesn't want me to go to your house? It's too depressing. That for some reason
yeah.
really landed with me. I was like,
Oh my gosh. That whole scene.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning. It opens with that
yeah.
image like you were talking about,
Yeah.
which I love. She's sort of reliving this car accident and then she falls into bed, which I don't know how they shoot that. but
I
it's
was
so
thinking
good.
that. What did they do?
Like, is she against a green screen, but then she falls onto the
Bed. I know. I was like, it can't be harnessed. It was too. Yeah, I don't.
It's beautiful. And like you said, almost balletic. Is that how you say that word?
Yeah.
Okay,
you nailed
great.
it.
So-
Thank you.
And everyone knows that feeling.
Yes.
There's a lot of like the disoriented feeling of like this around sleep that I just so relate to.
Me too.
That I
Especially
feel
that
like the-
exhaustion. that
Yeah,
makes
and where
things
it's
sort of-
like you go to sleep and then you wake up and it's nighttime, or you go to sleep and you wake up and it's daytime, and like
that disorienting feeling.
yeah, of like time has changed, but where am I?
I like that she's wearing her wedding ring. So you sort of know. I think
right,
she's
yeah.
still married
Yeah.
in her mind.
Oh, yeah.
He's just gone.
Yeah.
But the marriage never ended. She hasn't like severed that tie, which
No.
becomes very clear over the course of the movie.
So unresolved. Yeah.
I didn't catch it till this time because I hadn't seen it before. Now it was the second viewing that he runs upstairs from the basement and puts the key in the closet. So he's been like sneaking into the basement because he's not allowed to go there.
Yeah, and that's the only place he can go to, as we learn later, like be with his dad.
Yeah.
Because the dad has died, and she has packed up all of his things and locked them in the basement.
And not only did he die, but he died in a car accident on the way to the hospital for him to be born. So now her son Samuel's birthday is the same as Samuel's father's death day.
Yeah. So he inevitably is a constant reminder of her loss. And,
Yes.
and that is a really interesting, powerful part of a good horror movie to me, is like the weight of an absence, like the amount of room that takes up. We don't, like, the whole house feels like it's been vacuumed of this guy, and that is so much heavier and fuller than having reminders of him everywhere or having, you know.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe this didn't occur to me till you said that. For some reason, just the language of it. But that's how I felt growing up, because my biological mom and my dad were not in a good place, and then she passed away, and then I was always this reminder. I mean, I think
This film must be so full on for you.
it is, but I never connected that part of why until right now, which is very funny. That feeling of like you're almost a relic. You're like part of this past that's gone.
Yeah.
Although I think she's loves him more than whatever. I won't go there, but.
With the ending too, I didn't really notice, like, just one line from the ending where the neighbor says, I know this is a really hard time of year for you.
Right.
I didn't even put all, like, it kind of lays it all out where it's like his birthday's coming up. Also, they say so many times, like, and that's the day that the dad died.
Right.
And I never really put it together until this viewing at the end where it's like, oh, that's why this is all happening. It's like, it's that anniversary.
Well, and they've never celebrated his birthday on his birthday. They always celebrate it doesn't
on the cousin's birthday.
Yeah, so either a little early or a little late. I'm not sure, but not.
I think it's a little early because we see the cousin's birthday first.
Right, you're right.
But how, like, perceptive a child is too, and energetically, like, it's like when I got some news years ago that a family member had cancer, and I went over to a friend's house, and this baby, like, I went straight to my friend's apartment. It all ended up, it's a happy story. The person was fine. But when I went to the house, I had such a fright. I was in Canada. I was away from my family, and their, like, 18-month-old baby was just, who had always been sort of sweet, but, like, you know, was like a magnet to me. It was like he came over and he just wanted to sit in my lap, and he was so affectionate and loving, and I just find it, like, you know, before we get our heads cluttered and full of everything else, these just beautiful instincts that kids have, and so to imagine this little boy in the Babadook who's, like, grown up with an obvious energetic imbalance in his house, and him not knowing how to patch it, but, like,
and trying and having to sort of be the parent in a sense.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
it's so
especially
brutal.
Like, I got that so much more as the film went on, because in the beginning, and especially the first time I watched this when it came out, I really didn't know what it was about. All I heard was people like, "Oh my god, you have to see the Babadook! It's the scariest movie," and so I was, like, fully on board. And then I wasn't prepared for it to be not like Nightmare on Elm Street, to be something that's so much different. Yeah, and so I left after the first viewing being like, well, I didn't like that because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And then watching it again last night and today.
I hope you listeners can hear the Babadook that's in the recording studio. Go on.
But now that I kind of knew where we were, the movie felt so different. And I felt like I could really, like, appreciate a lot of that.
So in reverse, I probably had the experience where, because Avital had been like, you'll really like this movie, I knew it would probably, we talked so much about mental health, I knew it would probably have an element of that, which is actually probably why I came into it less fearful, like, oh my God, the jump scares are going to destroy me, and more like, I feel like at some point this is going to come around to feeling really resonant and really, and I was so engaged, and it almost, it didn't feel like a horror to me. It felt like just a exploration of, like, our lives.
It felt a lot less like a horror to me this go round.
It feels like kind of like a poem to me.
Me too.
Me too. Like, I love it. And I had...
Let's not tell George and Amir. they won't watch it.
But so upsetting. It felt very upsetting to me.
I feel like it's upsetting and hopeful.
I felt really hopeful.
Yeah.
See, that's what's interesting.
I don't want to jump to the end.
No.
Okay,
I feel like for me, the part that was, like, triggering or really scary to me is that feeling of your parent being scared. Like, there are certain scenes where, like, he's with her and he's, like, trying to be like, I'll protect you, and she's, like, freaking out. And I had, like, a single mother. There were, like, a few years when my brother and sister had moved out and it was just me and my mom, and she would get really scared about things, and as a kid being like, well, if you're scared, I'm fucked.
Right.
You're supposed to be the one that's saying, like, there's no monsters. But, like, after we saw Blair Witch, my mom slept on the couch for a week because she was, like, scared to sleep in her bed. And my bedroom was past hers. And I was like, this is not.
How interesting, because my fears are so opposite to that, where I'm like, I'm scared, I'm going to be the mother who's scared. So to see a mother who's scared and...
It's comforting.
Yeah, and to look into the void of it all and into the darkness of it all is like sort of to me going, oh my God, I don't feel alone in having fears about that.
Right.
That's where I do find, and comfort probably isn't the right word, but like kindred, something kindred
Yeah.
and like, God, I hope I never end up in this position, don't get me wrong. But I think that there's a freedom in being like, okay, all of the feelings on the spectrum of being a human and being a mother are all valid.
Right. And if you hide them, you're
Yeah.
also teaching your kid that feelings are not all okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm having the realization now, too, of like, crap, I'm going to have to be that person. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be an adult at some point
Yeah.
to somebody and be
Yeah.
like, no, it's okay. Like, let's check your closet.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm still the one that's like, I don't want to check the closet. What if there is something?
Right.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because we were talking about drama versus comedy. And I feel like this conversation is really illuminating how close they are because you're talking about your mom sleeping on the couch after Blair Witch Project. And I'm laughing because it's funny. But you could very seriously frame it differently.
That's
where
a source
it's like,
of trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as a kid, I
Yeah.
was like, but how am I supposed to sleep?
Yeah. And like not sleeping is really scary, which is what I think is
Oh,
so
this
brilliant
movie,
about.
yes.
Well, also Nightmare on Elm Street, that classic,
Oh,
like
yeah,
not sleeping. But yes, this movie does it really well too.
But I think that the source of like to me, the idea that when you become a parent, you should have to be invincible is
Yes.
truly terrifying. Like
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
how I would ever
And you know what? I don't think
talk
it's
about
healthy.
uncertainty. It's like, oh my God, how will I ever feel? How would I cope? We've got to kind of start a conversation that's like, guess what?
Right.
You're all going to have lapses and you're going to have moments. And maybe, you know, if your mum had outlets to be able to talk to her friends about that in a way, maybe you would have had to experience a bit less of it because she would have felt less
Right.
alone in
Should have
that,
been
you know?
less dependent on you.
Yeah, you don't know. I just think it's what I liked about this film, what I like about this whole topic is the idea of airing out your fears and like looking at them and not hiding from them. So that's why
Right.
it's resonant or comforting to me. Yeah.
And I love that this movie sort of works as both the Babadook being an actual monster or just being a metaphorical manifestation of her grief and sadness and inability to cope.
And that all of the above need like attention and like love rather than
right.
it needs to be like I'm here, I'm listening to you, you're valid.
Yes.
That's
By shoving it away, you're not.
Yeah.
Oh, especially when we get to the sister.
Oh, what? Which that she's not loving towards her? You mean?
Well, no, that she's constantly kind of being like, you're like shoving it away.
Oh,
When there's a line where she's like, the main, what's her name? Amelia is the, Amelia's like, we always talk about you. And the sister's kind of like, that scene I thought was amazing where the sister's like, you need to get over this. It's been 7 years. And Amelia's like, I don't talk about him. I don't mention him.
Right.
Why is this a problem for you?
right.
And they're not really having the real conversation, which is the sister being like, you don't have to talk about it. It's all over your life.
Yeah.
kind
Or
of,
maybe
like,
you
that
do
you're
have
not
to
dealing.
talk about it
Yeah.
because it's all over your life.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It'd be easier if you
yeah.
did talk about it than just wear it like
Right,
this.
exactly.
Yeah, there's such an interesting, like, the sister is like trying to be helpful by also not being helpful at all.
Not at all. And the mom is suppressing everything. And it's
Oh, she is.
a fun sort of, it didn't occur to me till now, the boy being the opposite of that at the supermarket saying, my dad's in the cemetery. He got killed driving my mom to the hospital to have me. And then the sweet response of, well, your mom's very lucky to have you then, isn't she? It's like, oh, but she doesn't really seem to feel
Doesn't
very
see it.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when she's checking the closet for him, talking about being that adult and checking, I think it's the second time, he has his arms wrapped so tightly around her waist. And it's so sweet how much he loves her. That was like the hardest part for me to watch the first time.
I thought he did such a beautiful job. Like,
He's so
yeah.
good.
both of them. She's incredible.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
she's amazing.
The casting is so perfect.
I remember I was looking at little notes about the film afterwards, and the director had said she looked to get like an 8-year-old, and the 8-year-old everybody was too knowing. Did you see that? And they were
Yeah.
like, this little boy was 6, and he just still had that.
And innocence.
Yeah.
They're saying, yeah.
Imagine being
he
8
was
and
so
being too
good.
knowing.
I mean, I was pretty obsessed with mortality at
Oh,
an
me
early
too.
age. Yeah.
Me too. Me too. And I think that's why, again, I like this little boy being able to ask the questions. And it's not that my parents ever didn't want me to ask the questions. I just didn't know it was a safe topic, like
Right.
to bring up, that you just think before you've ever talked to anybody else about this big existential stuff, like even with I hadn't lost a parent, I hadn't gone through anything like that, but it was still there were just thoughts about it and
Right.
fears around that had I been able to like air them out, would have had much less impact on.
Right. I feel the same way because I've been medicated since I was 11,
Yeah.
basically, with brief stints off of medication. And I do think that there's chemical component and that it's necessary. But at the same time, I probably could have benefited from seeing a therapist first instead of going straight to psychiatry and drugs. And there was just not a conversation.
There was a lot of that with this little boy, too, where the first half of the movie, I thought maybe he has ADD. Maybe he has some sort of something that might need medication because he's very like the constant screaming with like
Right.
where he's kicking the seat, like that kind of stuff. Where I was like, maybe he has something that needs to be treated. And then especially the turning point for me is like the bath scene where they're in the bath in all their clothes, where I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't have something. It's just a reaction to the instability.
Yeah, I think exactly what Rose was saying of like kids just sense that stuff. And he's surrounded by tumult and repressed feelings and like not
And
talking.
so scared that his mom's going to die. Or even just leave in a way that's like we see towards like the end, like where she's just gone, but she's still there.
Right. I still don't know if this is like a Jewish mysticism thing or if my mom just made it up to make me feel better. But I used to always have nightmares about my mom dying, and she told me that means she's going to live a long life. And that really helped. That if you have dreams about someone dying, it just means they're going to live for a really long time.
Oh, that's that's beautiful.
That was nice. It helped. But I totally relate to that panic of this is unstable. This is unsustainable.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
this is
that's-
going to end and you're going to be gone.
My
and then
mum's
what?
mum died when she was 52, and I know that for my mum, getting past 52 was like this total obsessive thing. She was like, from when she was about 45, she was like, well, I've got till I'm 52. And it took her getting past that. And when she got past 52, she like went back and studied. She got, from the ground up, got like her master's in fine art and like had this whole new lease on life.
That's
But
amazing.
It's amazing how much those things like hold us.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was doomed to kill myself. I
Yeah.
was like, that's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how it
imagine
goes.
how scared like Sam would be to have a baby.
Right.
After like, that's his narrative. It's like, well,
Right.
when my mom had a baby, my dad died.
Or even feeling like he doesn't deserve to live because his life cost someone else.
And then
their
I get
life.
down the track of like, I mean, we're all in therapy, or we've all been in therapy. Have you done? Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, just I mean, thinking about the number of people who can't afford it and need
Yeah,
it. I just can't. I mean, I don't know where I'd be without having the resources that I've had, and it's just such a frustrating thing that mental health is not given the resources that
I know.
you know that.
I mean, healthcare in
it
this
doesn't discriminate
country-
mental health. Like
Yeah.
it's
It's just as potent as
Yeah.
something physical. And there's a mind-body connection, so you can
Yeah.
start to get physically sick from
yeah.
being
There's I
mentally
mean,
sick.
talk about gut health. Like yeah,
Right, because
talked about
most
the
of
other-
your serotonin is made in your gut.
Which is
so-
where I was saying, because I'm undercooked on the serotonin front. I'm like, I don't trust my gut at all because my gut is heavily linked with my mind and
Right.
is often very fickle, really. Like, or I don't know how to establish what is a true gut feeling. It feels
Right.
just as wrapped up in any of my neuroses, you know?
Right, you can't tell what's just like panic and anxiety and
Yeah.
what's like a gut instinct.
Well,
And
there's so
also-
many people. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say there's so many people in this movie that look at her and tell that she's not okay, and they've just glossed past it. Like at work when she calls in sick and you can tell that they're giving her a hard time, and she's like, well, whatever, you know, and she hangs
What am I
up.
supposed to do? I'm sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that like just people are not. I don't know. And I feel like there's also maybe because it's 7 years later that people have just become complacent with the fact that like she's just a mess.
Yeah.
Right.
But that was a hard thing to watch, was like somebody who so desperately just needed someone to help her.
Well, it's also
And
something that makes me crazy.
No one did.
In this movie, on the internet, anytime, it's like suicide prevention, suicide awareness, call somebody, reach out, get help. Help is such a fucking nebulous word.
Yeah.
And like, I've dealt with depression and nobody could help me.
No.
And I've had friends struggle with depression and not been able to help. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just this thing where you like press a button and a flight attendant comes over and gives you help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I do have compassion even for her sister, even though I kind of hate her in this movie of like, what do
she's
you
just
do?
had enough too.
Yeah.
Well, the neighbor's the real hero.
Oh my God, she's
the neighbor who is just
neighbor's-
doesn't give up.
So wonderful, but oh my God, I don't know how she does it. Like
She
Oh,
does
yeah.
that thing that I think we kind of would want from our parents of just having a frank conversation. He asks her why she shakes, and she explains that she has Parkinson's. And then he's talking about it, and his mother, Amelia, is all upset. Don't talk about that. And the neighbor, Mrs. Roach.
Yes.
Bold move.
Yeah.
Bold move, Jennifer.
Jennifer Kent. Yeah. Is like, that's okay. He asked, and we talked about it. She's like the dream parent who's just supportive and comfortable and open.
But yeah, I think it is important, having been on, both sides of the equation, been really depressed and having friends be really depressed. It's Al-Anon stuff. Like you can't fix somebody else's situation.
Yeah, which I think is where the sister is.
Yeah, and I have a lot of compassion for that. I just think, you've got to take care of yourself. Sweep your side of the street. Like,
And her own kid.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, God, her daughter was being a cunt. And she deserved to be on her side of that treehouse.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know. All that happens is her kid has a broken nose.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
There's a couple of those lines where the sister's like, it's because I don't like your son. Or like she says things where it's like, oh, God.
I know it's brutal.
He's just a little boy.
He's just a little boy. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean.
But everyone's got a breaking point. I have compassion. Sometimes this can be to a fault. I have empathy for pretty much anyone in pretty much any circumstance where I'm like, you know what? She's just had it up to her eyeballs. She probably hasn't been listened to about what's been wrong in her life for the last sort of 7 years, and has probably had all kinds of things glossed over that really needed attention. Who knows what her own experience was with postpartum or with anything. Like,
well,
it was
especially
all
with the friend who's like, oh, her husband's gone back to work, and she's like, it's been really hard. I've had the baby almost 24/7. Like I don't even have time to go to the gym, and our main character's like, oh no, you didn't go to the gym. How terrible.
Life must be so hard for you.
Yeah, like
and
my
it can just
husband's
become
dead.
a
You don't
privileged
get it.
competition like that. Like that's
But it's also like for that girl who isn't going to the gym, that's like maybe her life is she's going through
who knows
something.
how much her mental health relies on the gym. Mine does.
Right.
Mine
Right.
100% needs exercise. It's like walking a dog.
I need it too, and I forget.
Yeah, me too. Aren't
my
we tricky
brain.
that we're like, I don't know what's wrong with me at the moment. Like,
or being on bad meds, which, that's the other thing is like you can get quote unquote help and it can be the wrong help.
Yeah.
And I was having like horrible panic attacks.
Yeah.
Was wanting to die.
Yeah.
And did not connect. Oh, I did switch up my medication.
Because it's such a lived experience that when you're in it, you don't know whether it's chemical or not. Like you just don't. Your brain is like I have a fear of how potent our brains can be with that stuff of like why I say I don't trust my gut very much. I think I have to look at evidence a lot of the time and be like, hang on, before medication has affected this or whatever it might be that actually, because when you're in it, it's hard to see past it.
And it feels like it's forever.
Yes.
When you're in something, it feels like it's not temporary.
No.
And even if it, I may be someone who needs to be on medication for my whole life, but there are people that don't have chemical issues, and even they, in instances of extreme grief, will do like temporary rounds of medication. And you can tell Amelia fucking needs it. She's like not even alive.
Yeah.
She's just sleepwalking.
And then it becomes like, there's such a push towards, it's great, wellness. And I think it's fantastic that there should be a whole arsenal of things you do, and meditation and yoga and whatever it might be, therapy. But like for some people, it involves medication. And that when that is frowned upon, or it's made to feel like if you do the other things, you don't need it. And that's not the case for everyone. Any of you listeners, like it can be a really alienating experience. Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, you feel better, you should get off the medication. It's like, but no.
That's why I feel better.
And
I've done that too. I've been like, I feel great.
Same.
Yeah. I had time to get off.
Yeah.
Oops, wrong. And she does. I love that she sort of attempts a version of self-care, which is the masturbation, which, by the way, I love that she can't sleep. She's watching TV and it's so wholesome. She just sees two people kiss. They're not even making out. They're just like smushing their faces up against each other. But that's what she wants.
And thinking about, her level of sort of attachment to somebody who's not there anymore, and the loneliness and the sort of sexual isolation that may have come with that. Yeah, it's really nice seeing that used in a way that actually totally serves the film.
Yes. As opposed to just being weird.
Like I'm just going to throw on a masturbation scene for the chick.
Well, she has that moment later too when she's in the car and she sees a couple kissing in the car.
I love all those moments of her sort of
she craves
longing.
intimacy.
Yeah. I mean, I do really feel for her in that scene when he interrupts. It's she's finally
That's
got to
be a parent's nightmare. Yeah.
Oof. And he doesn't
Well,
care.
he's so clingy. Like, that's the part that would drive me crazy and made me very uncomfortable watching this because I'm a very, like, claustrophobic. Like, even with my husband, I'm like, we don't touch when we sleep, okay?
Right.
I like to be – and the dog touches him, doesn't touch me. I don't like touching when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So like having all those scenes where she's like pushing him off so she can sleep like with there's so much space between them. That I got
Suffocating
that.
kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah. Every time he's like grabbing onto her waist, like he's
Isn't that funny? Because that's the moment you found really sweet, right?
Yes. Well,
I love how different we
I know,
are.
and that scene made me feel like her. I
it's
was like, I'm
also-
gonna lose it.
the first time I watched it, I remember being so frustrated by him and really feeling for her. And then I think by the end of it, not to jump too far ahead, but he feels a little bit like a hero.
Yeah.
So watching it the second time, I just loved him already.
Yeah.
And then just was feeling his isolation and his need for her that she's not really feeding.
Yeah.
And like maybe he wouldn't be so needy for her if he was allowed to have a relationship with his dad. I mean, I love that line. It's so heartbreaking when that guy Robbie covers for her at work and then he comes over with flowers and a game for him and the kid is like, I'm not sick, and gets really angry and says, she won't let me have a birthday party and she won't let me have a dad, and like runs up the stairs.
That line. God, it's killer. Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking. And it's like maybe he wouldn't be so needy with his mom if he
sure.
was allowed to have a dad.
Most of the time, neediness is born out of hunger, right?
Right.
Yeah. And
something's
insecurity.
unsatiated.
Yeah. And like we've talked about already, that fear of his dad died and it was on the way to deliver him. Like nothing
God,
is stable.
Yeah. What
Well,
a
and the
burden.
cousin points
Yeah.
out like it's your fault,
Yeah.
and like you don't deserve a dad. Your dad died
I like
because
to sit down with her and have a little chat.
Yeah. You don't deserve a dad.
Also, what is the aunt saying that this little girl's like listening and reinterpreting that she's like
not even reinterpreting, maybe.
well you I mean I was giving the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
so yeah, but where some of those lines of like your dad died because he didn't want to be with you and stuff where it's like ugh.
Yeah.
That's where, I mean,
Where are you
kids
getting
can be.
this
That's where the
from?
candor gets dangerous, hey? Like, you know,
The what gets
the
dangerous?
candor, like people's,
yeah.
you know, kids can just say for worse. And goes back to what we were talking about before, like, who are you saying it for? You know, what is your sense of what you believe doesn't always, even if she does believe that, it doesn't need to be
Right.
shared.
It doesn't.
And kids can do that in a really great way and in a way like, what's your Parkinson's about? What is that?
Right.
Or they can do it in a way like, I don't think you deserve a dad. So it's
Right.
like, we hopefully as adults like learn a little bit more about the discretion with those
Right.
when we talk to our partners or when we talk to anyone is like, what I have struggled with like a childish impulse to just say what I feel, say what I think all the time.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
to the detriment of lots of dynamics in my life, you know?
Yeah.
That you learn. I'm not from a family that had to learn how to open up. We talked about everything all the time. I had to learn how to close it down sometimes and like protect somebody else's experience by not needing to divulge everything I've ever thought.
I think that I get very uncomfortable for people in potential silences, and so I feel like I have to fill
Same.
it, and then
I'm
I just
100%.
talk that much. I'm also
100%.
not quite. Also, God, it's crazy that it's not occurring to me until you're saying a bunch of things how much I relate, because with my biological mom was most likely a suicide, and it was after having a baby and postpartum depression, and so I always felt responsible. And here's this kid whose cousin is straight up telling him that it's his fault.
Jeez.
It's brutal.
Avital, that's a full-on movie for you to be breaking down. Seriously.
I know, it's crazy that it didn't occur to me till now, but I did love it. And I had a different experience from both of you. Like you were like ready to go in and see it as this metaphorical thing, and then you now this time were like not expecting a straight horror movie. I remember when everybody was raving about it, I read the Wikipedia because I was afraid to watch scary movies, but I wanted to know what happened, and I was like, this sounds so dumb. And then watching it,
Interesting.
because just the like,
I think Wikipedia makes everything sound dumb.
I agree.
By the way,
I agree.
because every time I've read about a horror movie, I'm like, this sounds so stupid.
Because it's all the execution and the atmosphere,
Yeah, with none of the
and
emotion.
performance. Yeah, like I mean, it's all dependent on how they execute it.
Oh yeah, I was.
You're
Yeah,
right. Without
right.
the atmosphere is so much of it and is the part that you can relate to, you know, the
Yeah.
Yeah,
facts. Because
the
on paper,
dread.
especially, I would not have known that it was, I obviously haven't had your life experience. And my connection with it is purely the sort of sense of a fear of mental health getting the better of me or shutting it away and not dealing with it and how it will rear
Right.
up and destroy my life or that stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe if I'd read that as a synopsis,
Right. Well, the synopsis I read was very literal of like, and then the monster does this, and then this happens, and I don't want to get to the end yet. We'll get there. But I was like, when I had read about the end, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Versus seeing it, and I love it.
And you feel it, yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense to me on a much more metaphorical level.
Yeah. As you say, it's a poem, you know.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
She won't let me have a birthday party, and she won't let me have a dad. Oh. It just hurt so much. Also, when she's trying to sleep and hears a knocking, which is like the Babadook, dook.
Well, is this before she gets the book?
Yes, before she gets the book still. Just that feels a lot like depression or anxiety, that trying to sleep and something is like knocking on your brain like, but think about this embarrassing thing you did or said.
Totally.
Even just that.
Totally. I remember reading all those like wolves in a cave, like and looking at the back of the cave and there's something in there that feel like it was very evocative for me. This film of all those feelings of like these shadows and the shadow self and this like stuff that's
totally. I love that he is like kind of literally a shadow for the most part. You rarely see him.
But then he's like a weird little kind of golem thing in moments. So I was like, whoa, hang on.
I don't like bug stuff.
He looked a little different to what I kind of picked for some reason when he popped up.
Yeah.
That sort of took me out just for a second while I was like, oh, it's I don't know why the figure itself was not what I quite anticipated.
I liked it better when he wasn't a real person because there's a scene where she's like washing dishes and she looks in the neighbors and he's behind the neighbor.
Oh, I like that shot.
But it took me out of it a little bit too because I thought he was a lot scarier when it wasn't a person.
Yeah, when he's more of a shadowy figure.
Yeah, or just like the clothes on the wall in the police station.
Yeah, oh, that was creepy.
Or
stuff moving.
Yeah, just this kind of idea of like he's here, but he's not real. Or is he? You know, like kind of messing with your mind more.
Armoire scraping. By the way, I love that music cue when after she reads him the book, which we haven't even talked about the book and how well it's designed and how creepy it is.
And apparently didn't they release a bunch of those books?
Yeah, they did. I don't want that in my house.
No, I would put that in the barbecue and grill it.
Like and then it would show up at your door.
Yeah, and it will show up.
Oh, God. But there's that one moment where they're playing this like creepy kind of magical music and then she slides the book on top of the armoire and the music cue just cuts out. I love it. I think that's so good. I have a question for you before we move past that birthday party scene where she's with all the other moms and everybody is wearing gray.
Yeah, or black.
Like, yes, gray or black. Exactly.
Because the sister looks like, that was the part where I was like, what is happening? The sister looks like she's going to a funeral. And like earlier she was like, what's the daughter's name? Ruby?
Yeah, I think
where she's like, Ruby just wants a princess party. And then the mom full on looks like she's at a funeral.
Yeah,
I was like, what is happening?
I didn't even connect the princess party part to that.
I was like, why isn't she in pink?
Everyone's like funereal except for Amelia. She's in, I think, like a pastel pink.
Yeah. Wasn't she in her work outfit?
Oh, maybe that's pink, why.
But that's so deliberate.
Yeah.
There's definitely bringing her in color.
And I would have imagined it being the reverse.
Yeah.
And it works so well. I love the way it looks, but I don't know why it works.
Yeah, that's. I wonder what she's trying to do there. I know for me it feels like, because I can relate to some of her. I mean, just on a really like fundamental level too. What a brilliant idea to make a horror film out of the thing that creates more horror for most people than anything, like our own minds and but the idea that she could be this bright thing and that she's seeing things in the shades of grey. That's kind of how I.
Oh, interesting.
That was my little takeaway.
I like
could
that.
Be anything.
Because I didn't know. I was like, I feel like I would have done the opposite, and I like this better.
Yeah.
But as a filmmaker, I'd be like, she should be in grey, and everyone else is wearing color. But this is so much more striking.
Yeah, and you wonder whose perspective you're seeing it from then.
Yeah, so maybe it is her perspective. Or like this omnipotent perspective, like you said, that she could be this colorful thing.
Well, there's also something interesting about her job where she's like literally supposed to be taking care of people.
Right.
And it's what's so hard for her to do in her own life is like take care of her son, and no one's taking care of her.
And in a way, she's also very close to death. These are like sick, elderly people. And so she's this maybe guide into leaving this world behind, and she's so unequipped for it. That's
also what she knows. It's her entire headspace is on the edge of death too. So it's like she's chosen a career that speaks to where she feels like she lives.
Or even like that maybe before all this happened, she was such a, it takes like a really special person to do that job. And maybe she was like so far the other spectrum that she was really good at this job.
I love that. I hadn't thought about that. Well, what's she like before she loses her husband?
That was kind of what I thought with the neighbor. Like the fact that the neighbor doesn't give up and is so what's the word? I can't think of a word, but is so persistent and
Yeah.
is unwavering. I was like, well, she must have been such a great neighbor before.
Yeah.
Right.
For someone
She
to be
knows
like,
who's in there somewhere.
yeah, that I'm gonna.
I do think that's such an interesting thing when there's like a tragic loss, how much it shadows over the lives of everything else that goes on. Like I often think about siblings, siblings of a lost child, and but for this boy he doesn't even get a shot before that
Right,
happens to show who he is, but how you become it's the identifier. It's like the kids at school know that's the kid who ... like
Right.
and for her she's so many other things, but she's not. She's a widow and she's the mother
single
of
mother.
Yeah, like
And almost maybe she started to believe. I mean, I think she is experiencing extreme grief and loss on her own. But also if there was a part of her that's like, I'm more than this and I was an individual before this. But if she's the widow, it's hard to rise above that one.
It was like an all one fell swoop of like, I am
She's suddenly a
a
mom.
widow and a single mom. I've never not been a single mom.
Yeah.
It's like such a weird, and like that's not what she wanted to be, and that wasn't the plan.
And there was no preparation for that. Usually, if you're going to be a single mom, you've made that decision and you're moving forward, or at least you've had 9 months to process the fact that you're going to be a single mom. But like you said, it's like she goes from having the nuclear family to suddenly being a widow and a single mom.
Mm-hmm. And I know a friend who was in that position whose dad passed away, and the mother, it was like they were the perfect love story, the parents. They were so solid, and then she had 3 kids and was just not everything that she thought she was before. Like the idea of dating again, the idea of all of those things. It's just like, it wasn't like she came from a really bad place and then was able to overcome it. It's like she felt like all of that was taken away, and she didn't cope with it well at all.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
that scares
brutal.
me. That's definitely like I'm in the phase where like I'm getting ready to like be a mom at some point. Like I'm kind of moving into that, and watching this and being like, what if that happened where I was pregnant and then Brad died and he never met the baby? I was like, ugh, I wouldn't want the baby either.
But
Like
this
it
is
would
where
be
I
so
go into
upsetting.
like, thank God I've got a great therapist who's just like, any of these things could happen at any given moment. Like, sure, like the worst situations could happen to any of us, and also the best ones can. And if we're never going to be able to know, why not just like? I'm now at a place where I don't need to go worst case scenario, and I'm like, I know that's a possibility. There's also a good possibility. So
Well, and it's also that what matters most is how well you walk through the fire. And so he was going to lose his dad. That's going to happen no matter what. But instead of him being at home doing magic to stuffed animals and a photo of his parents, which, God, that was so heartbreaking. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, mom and dad, and he's doing his magic trick. Like, he could just be allowed to have his dad be a part of his legacy and his story. And this isn't a horror movie then, you know? It's sad, but it's a triumph, which I think ultimately it is.
yeah,
If you can deal with your grief.
yeah. And grief
face
again, it's like the whole message of the film. It's like grief needs to be seen, and it's like it needs to be validated as much as joy and anything else.
Right.
It's part of your human experience. It's inevitable. We're all going to lose everybody we love, and like that has to have a home.
Right. And if you just meet it with tenderness, it will take time and it won't be easy or fun. But
Yeah.
you
Have you
can
heard
get
of these
through it.
death cafes?
No.
No.
There's this like, oh God, I'm going to get this so wrong. But there are cafes somewhere, I feel like it sounds Scandinavian to me, where you go and it's like that the theme of the cafe is death and talking about death and just people you've lost or fears that you have, or it's like a safe place to go and like ask all the questions, and they try to encourage it to be part of the conversation because it's the one thing we know we're all going to deal with.
Wow.
Death and taxes, and it's not
I think
ever.
about that constantly, how in middle school we should be learning about death and taxes.
Yeah,
Because those are
Absolutely.
inevitable. Why don't we
Absolutely.
deal with
And
that?
fixing things.
yeah.
That's I want to add that to the curriculum.
Sure.
If someone could teach me how to fix like a sink or something,
Yeah.
that would have been a lot more helpful in
As
life.
important because you could call somebody to do it. I guess with taxes, you theoretically could
Call
too.
someone to grieve for me. Now that is a film. The ghost
Yeah.
griefer.
My friend's girlfriend is studying to be a death doula.
I've heard of this.
I
Yeah.
just learned about this.
I didn't know about that.
It's
but
so
it makes
fascinating.
Sense.
It's like to help,
Yeah.
largely to give the person space to grieve the end of their own lives. Because oftentimes, as a person's dying, they feel obligated for their loved ones to put on a brave face and everything's fine. And it's okay, I'm going peacefully, when actually it's normal to be scared and angry and all sorts of other things. So they're sort of there to give that space to the person who's dying.
It's time for like a huge shift in the conversations around it, for sure. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know in New Zealand when I went to tangis, which are native funerals, it's a little like Shiva, where you sit for you stay in the same marae like as the body for
Marae?
It's like a meeting house, like
Cool.
a Māori meeting house, but for 3 days with the body, and you sleep and you get comfortable with the fact that this is the vessel that the soul has left from. And it was amazing. Like, I did that as a kid, and it was amazing how healing that whole experience felt. And so unlike my own family experiences, which were like, person died and then they're gone, and you kind of look at them once and you sort of try not to look at the body too much. And it just was so different to just being able to, and everybody laughs, everybody sings songs, everybody, there's a lot of anger, there's all of the feelings are valid in it. And you get a good 3 days worth of just getting them out and sharing them. And it's amazing how that should, I don't know what the exact right solution is, but there's a reason. It's a common humanity thing that we need to acknowledge what's going on.
It's giving me new appreciation for the idea of Shiva, because it's basically mandatory grieving.
Yeah.
And
looking into the abyss, it's the same thing. It's like looking into what's actually happened.
Right. It's like you have to mourn or you can't move forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes it seems really oppressive, at least the way I grew up. Like, if you're sitting Shiva for a parent, you're not allowed to dance for a year or go see live music or basically anything fun.
Interesting.
And that seems so sad and oppressive. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of beautiful, just because it's
the part you don't want to do, right? It's making you deal with the part you don't want to do.
Making you deal with it now rather than sort of forever quietly.
7 years till your son.
Yes.
Yeah. Till you write a book.
So he pushes his cousin out. Then the mom's taking him home, and he's like shrieking in the car. He's screaming, "Get out, get out, get out."
That's harrowing. Yeah.
That was the scene where I was like, do I want children?
The seizure? I know. It was so, the fit he had.
so scary.
Oh, terrifying.
And then I love that
even
she
just the
springs into
tantrum.
action. Yeah, the
Even
tantrum
just
is...
the tantrum, I'm like, that's something that everybody will have. I've had those. Like, any kid I have will have those.
Yeah.
Do I want it?
This
definitely part of what you sign up for, right?
Yeah. But then the sort of convulsions he starts having.
Yeah.
And linked to the Babadook, where he's like,
screaming, "Get out."
oh my God.
Yeah.
And you hear what sounds like laughing, like the Babadook laughing.
So he's read the book by now.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Book, that scene where they read the book.
Oh my gosh.
It starts so nice. It starts like such a nice kid's
Right,
book.
like you
Everything's
can pick out
rhyming.
anything you want.
I saw the title and I'm too cynical. I was like, I saw the title Babadook. I was like, this is going to go bad before they even started reading it.
Oh, the illustrations are so good, though.
They're so good.
And there's like that little hint that she's the one that did it at the birthday party. When they're like, you're a writer. And she's like, no, not anymore. What'd you do? I used to write articles and then a few kids things.
Right. I love that too.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, she wrote the book.
Yeah. I mean, that's my takeaway. There's
Yeah.
some theories that I don't quite...
Because, like, why else would that line be in there, you know?
Right.
If it's not to point to, like, she's the one that wrote the Babadook.
That had never landed for me.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it twice now.
Okay, I'm so dumb, but
No,
I've got
you're
it
not
now.
at
I mean,
all.
I'm not. I'm learning.
I spoke to a lot of people that loved that movie that also didn't pick up on that.
Of course, yeah. That's a great.
Because then
way
she's
to-
got the at the police station.
No. I mean, yes, but no. I disagree with that theory. Well,
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you why. Well, okay, let's try and go a little chronologically and then we'll get there.
Yes, because that was what the first viewing. That's what tipped me off.
Interesting.
Okay,
Okay,
so
we'll
keep
go
going.
chronologically. So then she takes him to the doctor and she asks for sedatives for him. And the doctor finally, at her request, prescribes a short course of sedative, but warns that they can cause temporary nausea, which this is not important, but I want to know. How do you guys pronounce that word?
What nausea?
Nausea?
See? Because I always said nausea and now everybody says nausea. And
I
I'm
say
always like,
nauseous
yeah.
and nausea, so I'm just inconsistent.
I say nausea and nauseous also.
Yeah, I feel nauseous. I'm having nausea.
See, everybody says nausea, and I felt very validated and
I also
comforted
work
when
with
he
a
said
lot of
nausea.
doctors.
yeah, I say nausea.
Me too.
Yeah,
But I
don't
work
know-
with a lot of doctors,
And they all say
we talk
nausea.
about it a lot for what I do that I can't be specific about
Right,
on the
right.
podcast. But
why can't you
I
be?
should tell you about it after.
right.
But it's very interesting.
Oh my god, listeners, you guys on the edge of your seat?
I might just cut it.
I know
to
I
keep
am.
it safe. But I'm glad that you say nausea because I only meet people who say nausea, but I grew up saying nausea and then I feel weird. And so I was comforted that the doctor says it the way I do.
That scene's heartbreaking too, where he's like, he really doesn't want to give it to her. And he's like, he says that line, which makes me kind of want to strangle him because it's so judgy of like, well, most mothers usually don't want to do this unless
it's really bad.
She's like, it's bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah, because there's that kind of judgment of like, you're not severe enough to want.
But I feel like that's going to be if we all become mothers, that's going to be like so much of our lives. I mean, any parent,
yes.
mothers, fathers, just the incredible judgment that goes on
But
from
he does
everybody else
give
about what's right.
He does give it, so
He does
he's not
give it,
completely like.
But there is
discounting
still
her.
just
but
that
there's that moment where you can
judgment.
tell, that he's kind of discounting.
And I do get
Is it
wanting
really
to
this
warn
bad?
her, but yes, it does feel more judgmental. It's like when a pregnant woman is told, like, should you really be having that glass of wine? It's like, yeah, you're allowed to have whatever.
Thank
it
you
is.
so much for weighing in on it, though.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Right,
Well, and I
exactly.
wanted her in that scene where it's like, your kid's going to get this thing to help them sleep. I wanted her to be like, can I also get a prescription because I need
thought
to
she was
sleep.
going to take it too. Maybe she
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
I still kind of think she does, even though it's not like
What
she
would you
should.
do
take it.
differently in this film? Like, where would you what would your course of action be if you were the some
That's a great question.
omniscient sort of character that was like, what do you think she should do?
I mean, ideally, I think she just should have grieved in real time.
Right, but if you're like, so you step in at the start of the film and you go, shit, this is where we're at. You've had 7 years of this. What would you do? Would you say, go live with a friend? Would you say, both of you should be in therapy? Like, what's I'm just curious.
Both of you get into therapy, and I think once she's in a good enough place to be able to open this dialogue about his dad and go through his stuff with Samuel and say, like, this was your dad's sheet music and this was his, and here's what I loved about him, and that's also what I love about you. And
Well, I also just wanted somebody to take Samuel for a week.
That's
and
what
be
I
like,
want
You
too.
need to go to like Ojai, like stay in one of these hotels and just like be away from everything and just sleep and get massaged and eat well and
but I
walk
feel like
around
he needs
for like
someone
a
there
week.
too, like someone who's a source of
That's
stability.
why I feel like I would
don't know
have
if that
probably moved them
exists.
in
Maybe
with
the neighbor.
The neighbor. I would have moved
Yeah.
them in with the neighbor. I would have gone, just spend some time with her. She kind of likes the company. There's some value in it for her. She's able to. I think a really important thing, just while we're there, is like the amount of wisdom that having had such a bit more life experience, being a bit older, and how underused that is always kind of, we think of like the way we treat our senior citizens. It's like okay, now what are we going to do with them? And it's like they have so much to offer and so much
And
perspective.
she's probably been through some sort of loss too.
for
Which is
sure.
Why she has so much sympathy.
Inevitably, yeah. Because
Anyway.
also as you get older, people die. That's what happens.
I just wanted her to be able to go off and like have a week or 2 weeks or something where like everyone just takes care of her.
The mom.
Yes.
You
just,
know what's
like,
interesting?
Sleep and eat and like have someone
Totally.
bring food to your room and take the food away from your room and clean, like have a maid and all. I just wanted her to have a break.
There's that moment when Robbie does cover for her at work so she can tend to her quote unquote sick boy. Yeah. And the way that it's shot and the creepy music, it kind of makes her feel like a bad person when she's, having ice cream and not caring for her sick son. But I feel like it's that kind of like with a different score, it would just be nice to
She's
see her happy.
She needs a mental health day.
Yes.
Subversive way of that filmmaker doing that. Like, she could have painted it as like a joyful thing, but she
Right.
didn't. She kind of put on like society's lens to
Yes.
what this all looks like.
Yes.
And then when you do kind of look back and challenge yourself with it, you're like, oh shit, why would we possibly assume that's anything other than the best choice for her
Yes,
family? Like,
exactly. She's taking some much deserved me time. It was helpful to see it the second time.
And Samuel's been kicked out of school, so she's really stuck.
Well, is he kicked out or she says she's going to take him somewhere else?
no, he gets de-enrolled. They say he's been
The social
deregistered.
workers,
Oh, right.
come by. They say, but in the meeting, so they keep referring to him as the boy. The boy
that
is
comes up a lot.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of a recurring thing. And then they're saying that he just needs like what's the word they use? Like someone to accompany him, not a supervisor, but they're saying
Like a chaperone, like a
yeah, some sort of thing because it's not fair to the other kids.
a minder or something. They said, yeah, like he's a personal minder, a personal what?
And that's when she says, like, you guys don't understand and you don't have any empathy for him and I'm going to take him out of school.
Oh,
and they're
right.
sort of like, we're not the enemy. So I thought that she takes him out.
Yeah.
But
you
he
might
also did get in trouble. So I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I guess just because like in my head I was like they're at the end of their rope kind
Yeah.
of with her.
Yeah. Oh, this moment was heartbreaking. When she gives him the pills, he says, I love you, Mom. And she says, me too.
I wrote that down too. Yeah, that she doesn't say I love you.
Because because she doesn't have the capacity to love right now.
Yeah. And I think in these moments she doesn't love him.
I think
She doesn't love herself. She doesn't have love. She's
so full of resentment towards him.
Yeah.
That she can't see anyone except for that you killed my husband.
Right.
Which it's so interesting because these movies, it's usually the opposite. It's like the mom died during childbirth.
Right.
It's so different to have it the reverse.
But again, I love it's so brave to put this person, and it's like it's the most for society, that's the most unlikable thing. A mother who couldn't love her child. Like,
Right. Yes.
how easy is that to demonize and be like,
Totally.
and for it to balance that with, and to really go there, and she does some horrible things.
Yes.
But to empathize with what is going on, I mean, I'm sure there will be plenty of people who watch this film who don't and who are like, she's just terrible or whatever.
Yeah.
But if anybody watches that who's had any experience with grief, and feels like they can process that, I think it's so brave. It's such brave filmmaking.
I think Jennifer Kent really pulls it off
Yeah.
in a very impressive way. And I read that she was
doesn't shy away from
concerned-
anything.
No.
No, the dog can attest.
Oh my gosh. Anytime I see a dog in a horror movie,
I wondered how you would handle that, actually. I was like
it's
surprised.
the part I was dreading the most.
Yeah.
I forgot
rewatching
that
it.
happened.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah.
And when that happened again, I was just like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Anytime there's a dog in a horror movie, I mean, I can't think of one example where it doesn't get killed. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Well, so we get the foreshadowing that the dog's going to die. The next thing that happens, she finally seems to get a good night's sleep for the most part. And then there's a knock at the door and nobody's there. And then there's a knock at the door
because she
again.
threw the book away. She ripped
Yes.
up all the pages.
That's right.
Threw it in the trash.
And now the book is on the front stoop, taped back together.
This is like a nightmare to me.
And it has
'Cause I
new
always have that
pages.
fear of like you throw something away, then it's back.
Yeah.
It's like Groundhog Day.
I always worried about that
So
with
scary.
dolls as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, spooked, like haunted dolls were the scariest.
That's what my
idea.
sister told me would happen if we got a Ouija board.
That if you threw it away, it would come back.
Yes. And I was like, so then I was always like, you can't get a Ouija board. Once you get one, it'll never leave. Because my sister,
Sounds like Jumanji or something.
yeah, that's what she had said, was like, it won't, once you get it, it won't leave you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, then the new pages say, the more you deny, the stronger I
Yes.
get, which are so scary. And
And
then
it's
it
written
says,
in like charcoal. The whole
Yeah.
book is like drawn in charcoal.
yeah.
I
It says
love
you
that.
start to change when I get in, the Babadook growing right under your skin, which I think also is like another clue that maybe it's just her, that it's just inside
Well, and then
you
all the
festering.
pictures of the boy throughout have been replaced with now it's her.
Oh, all of them?
When she re-looks at it, instead of the boy being in the bed, it's her laying in bed.
Was it the boy in the beginning? Mm-hmm. Whoa.
And then
This is
now
real
if I'm
second
wrong,
watch
I'm gonna
stuff.
feel now I feel like I'm out on a limb. But I wrote that down because I noticed the first time it's like a kid that's scared, and then this time it was clearly a woman.
Yeah. I
And
noticed
then
it was her, but I didn't
and then this
remember.
go around like when you see the Babadook, she's in front of it.
Yes, I love that it looks like it could just be her shadow. That she's literally casting this evil shadow because it's just her. Oh, it's so
Yeah, it seemed
beautiful.
like this go around it was all about her, and the first go around it was about the kid.
Yes. Okay, so now we'll get to
The
this other
boy.
theory. The boy, Samuel. He has a name.
The boy.
Jessica. This is where we'll
You're
get
as bad
to
as the rest of them.
So she burns the book, and then she goes to the fire station. And this is what you're talking about. So I had read this theory that when she goes to the fire station, she has all this charcoal in her hands because she actually added the pages. That's what you were pointing at.
That's what I noticed. That's why I thought.
I thought it was just because she burned it.
Yes. So I had read this theory that it was like, but if she burned it, why would her hands be so black? She's not touching it. However, if she did add those pages, her hands would be black when there's the knocking at the door and the book shows up. And I was paying close attention and rewound it, and they're not. They're clean.
But I mean, sometimes they play with those kinds of things. Like she didn't notice it at the time, and now she notices it.
Right.
Or like
Oh, that could be too. Yeah, because it's all about her.
it's
her
what's in her mind
perception.
versus her perception versus like the
Right,
cockroaches
right.
coming out of the wall.
Yeah,
where
true.
she saw that and then she didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It was
Because in my mind, that's why
It might
she
be
like
tenuous,
hides her
though.
hands and leaves.
Well, they also are giving her a hard time for burning the book. Because I thought that and was looking for it this time. And then I was like, well, I feel like, I guess I like Rose's explanation that maybe she's not seeing the soot on her hands. I mean, I do think she wrote the book and
Yeah.
probably washed her hands.
Yeah.
But that what's left on her hands seems to be like from burning it. And
That's
maybe
what
touching it.
I still like mine. I'm like, I interpret it my way because I always like in that scene. Oh God, that scene's so interesting because it's also her going for help and people shutting her down. It's like the one point in the movie where she reaches out.
Right, and that she calls her sister before that.
And
Who's
the
like, if
sister
it's
says,
really that bad,
"Go to the
go to the
police."
police. Yeah.
And
it's
she
like,
does.
It doesn't matter.
And then she's like, I'm being stalked. They gave us a children's book and they laugh at her.
Yep.
Which is so hard. And then she sees like the Babadook kind of outline on the wall. With there's all this cool stuff where it's like clothes laid out
Yeah.
in a vertical way.
I love that.
Yeah, I loved it. The more that it was like the shape of things or the shadow of things, or that felt particularly kind of haunting. And
I like the way you said that, even the shadow of things, because that's the whole fucking movie. Is she's like living in the
it's her
shadow of what
yeah.
has happened.
Totally.
And then she says that they've given her, somebody's left this like threatening, menacing book. And they're like, well, can we see the book? And she says, I burned it. So I think in that moment you can look at it, either she's seeing like the charcoal on her hands from having drawn the pages and starting to
And
realize
she's like
that it's
shaking
herself.
too when she like notices it.
Or it's that feeling of,
Yeah, it's definitely there's
I'm an
supposed to
idiot.
be
I
a certain
burned the
amount of
evidence.
importance on it that they focus on that they go to the hands that.
Yeah, and I don't know which one it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I like that it can be either. I mean, I do think she made this book. And something that I didn't think
Who
about.
else would make it?
Right. Well, if it's a supernatural thing, then it just appeared. But I don't think so.
Yeah, it's my reading of this is, especially this time, is like nothing is supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure what I took away. I don't know how I didn't seem to attribute it to being her as the author, but she would be for sure, yeah.
One thing that I wondered when I first saw it was that she sort of was in this like blacked out state nearing his 7th birthday and wrote this book and then didn't remember.
Well, talking about repressed memories,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and
But
she's
now-
not sleeping.
Right. But now I also think there's a good case to be made that she started writing it after he died and forgot all about it.
Yeah, or started writing it and it was too much at the time.
Right.
And
Repressed it then.
Yeah.
So I wonder when she wrote this book.
Yeah, maybe it was the start of going to be a healthy grieving process. Where she was like,
Ooh, I love that. It's like this abandoned effort at moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then it just goes off the rails. Then the Department of Family Services show up. I love that one of them is named Prue Flannery. It's just like such a perfect name for someone from the Department of Family Services.
Yeah.
Oh, they show up as she's just discovered this roach infestation.
yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I've had ant infestation, so I can relate to that feeling of like
Roaches are so
all,
much
I've never had a roach one, but
Cockroaches
where
in
all of a
Sydney,
sudden
Australia, are shocking. And they're big. They are big. Like, and it doesn't matter how clean your house is. It's like they're going
to get in.
The climate brings them. And yeah.
Oh, to me, that's so scary, that feeling that you're seeing something and it's already so gross and terrifying. But then when you turn around and see that it was just in your head, how much
that's
scarier
so
that is.
scary.
Weird sidebar. We had this. She was kind of my grandmother, and she had Alzheimer's. And when my brother was like 3, she used to see bugs everywhere. Like she'd see, part of whatever was happening in her brain. But she would see bugs, and my brother used to lie and say he saw them too because he just wanted to make her feel better. And my mum was like, "You can't keep saying that to Betty." But my brother would be like, "Oh, the cockroaches are everywhere today." And just totally would get on board. It's just such a sweet thing to lie about. To like,
Sweet.
he was
So
like,
she
"I don't want to
didn't
make her feel alone." Yeah.
Oh, I love him. Shout out, what's his name?
Paul,
Hey, Paul.
Paul,
Good job.
you're a great guy.
Very sweet of you.
one of the best.
I wonder why they named the neighbor Mrs. Roach. I feel like she's the opposite of these roaches.
Or maybe the roaches are misunderstood.
Maybe. Maybe they're just sweet.
Maybe
We
they're
need to
warning
look at them.
Yeah.
that there's
Face the roach.
that there's an infestation in the house because then later it's like you're trespassing,
Right.
and then she sees him again in the car later.
Yeah. And she gets into a car accident.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Which
that's-
also is sort of must be extra charged given it starts off with her sort of remembering this car accident and
Yeah.
that's how she lost her husband. And you know what I wanted to read up on? She also keeps getting this like pain in her mouth throughout.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Eventually
that?
her tooth comes out. I don't know.
Well, she pulls it out.
She
doesn't
pulls
she?
out her
Yeah,
tooth.
she pulls it out. And
That
I'm
was the part I
glad.
pressed mute.
Oh, the
Like I don't want to
sound
hear
of
the
it.
sound of
I
it.
get so jumpy. I'm like really. I feel everything at the dentist anyway. Like they
Yeah.
struggle to numb me. My nerves are like really exposed to something. So I watched that. I was like, oof, that's probably the scariest image. in the
Yeah, and the
film.
sound really
Yeah.
compounds it.
The
sound,
the
the
is
sound
so-
design in the whole film is
Oh my
just
God.
amazing.
It is. I mean, the Babadook's voice.
Yeah.
Even just because we don't see him at this point, but he calls. She
Yeah.
gets a phone call.
Yes,
And it's so terrifying.
Yeah.
and she hears it in bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then her voice, when her voice starts changing.
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Oh my gosh,
just
it's
beautifully
so good.
executed. It's such a delicate balance and try to pull it off and not sound like hokey.
Right.
And it's just perfect.
It easily could.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Now I want to quickly see if there's anything about the tooth because I
Yeah.
don't know what it's supposed to mean. I know like in dreams it's supposed to be
A loss of control is what I've heard.
okay. And I thought it was the
dream.
fear
Maybe
of
that's
death,
why I
but
hate it
maybe
so
it's
much.
both. Maybe what?
That's why I hate teeth stuff so much.
Control issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something's
that's what I always
loading.
heard was like people who are scared they're losing control have dreams where like their teeth are falling out and you can't fix it.
Oh, interesting. And she is spiraling out of control.
Yeah, the stuff where she's like constantly rubbing it, I just felt like it was like a physical manifestation of what's happening inside.
Oh, this is an interesting take too. That when people hold in anger, it has to go somewhere, and some people hold it in their jaw.
Well, yeah, and like grinding your teeth.
Yeah, it could be from that. I wonder about that. Holding in your feelings and how it manifests in your body.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Those scenes, though, before it all like hits the fan, where the Babadook is like coming into the room at night, that's so scary. Where the door just opens,
Yes.
but the son's already in bed with you. Because like at first she lets the dog in because she hears a noise,
Yeah.
and then the noise continues.
And there's this scraping. It sounds like the armoire is moving, and whenever
Yeah.
she takes a blanket off of her face to look, it
It's
stops.
still, I know. I rewinded at one point. I was like, wait, did I miss the movement? And I was like, no.
Right.
Oh, it's so scary.
And I don't know if it is moving, but it
I don't think
certainly
it is.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the sound. It's all about the sound.
That I know. I feel like if I block my ears when I watch anything scary. Like, what was that movie a few years ago? One of the bizarre times that I did see a horror film was the one that was like this isn't going to describe it well, the STD.
Oh, it follows.
It follows, yeah. the horror STD film. When I covered my ears, I could watch anything. And I was like, it doesn't
Yeah.
faze me at all. But the soundscape really,
That's
really
what I do a lot
impacts
for
me.
this podcast. When it gets too much, I just press mute.
Yeah, covering my eyes doesn't. It's not about that most of the time.
Yeah.
It gets into my
Totally.
psyche more when
The
it's the
tooth
sound.
is a really
Yes.
great example
Yeah.
of that too. The sound of her pulling it out. Oh,
yeah.
it was painful. I love how it's sort of this slow, tense, dreadful build, and then it's just frenetic and insane. And it does move so quickly.
There's like a great scene where she lets it in. It like attacks her,
Right.
but my interpretation is then like she lets it in.
Right.
Where it ends with like a close up of her eyes and her pupils are huge,
Yeah.
and,
And she
that it's
looks
like a physical
she's breathing
change.
him in. Like it looks like she sort of swallows
That's
him.
right.
It's amazing how much tension and story and character you get in this house. They're like not even leaving the house. It's
I want them to
basically
leave the
two
house so
characters.
bad. I want them to
know.
move so bad after this.
So he gets worried and calls the neighbor. Oh boy. And she
Yeah.
comes.
Oh, that moment really that breaks my heart. The idea of a child's like sense of responsibility,
Yeah.
And he's wearing the
doing
little
the
weapon
grown-up
on his
thing.
back.
Yeah.
Yes, he's like made these
and
weapons.
he says, "I said I'd always protect you. You'd always protect me."
Yeah,
Oh.
he's such a little sweetheart. And he's creative and responsible in his way. He's coming up with these weapons.
And what a smart thing to do. That was the take when I was like, what would we do in this film that's different? I really think it's get somebody like the neighbor involved, like get
Yeah.
some help from outside. And that's what he does. Like he does the adult response of like,
Yeah.
this isn't something I can fix. It's not something mum can fix.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
and he
a
says
neighbor.
earlier too, he's like, I don't think we should stay
sleep-
here tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's
Is
right.
that during the bathtub scene?
Oh my gosh, can we talk about the bathtub scene for a second?
The
'Cause
bathtub scene breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Me too. And I had forgotten about it. I didn't
Yeah.
remember that scene. She's just in the bath in her clothes.
It's right after the car wreck, right?
Yeah.
And at first, I couldn't tell that there was water in the tub. She's just sitting in the tub in her clothes, which I do sometimes. It's a very comforting place to just sit.
Interesting.
Because it's very cold and like,
You live in a horror movie.
Yeah.
I don't put water in it. But it's like a very comforting place sometimes if you're feeling like really out of control.
And he seems to be registering that this is not normal.
But then when I saw that she's sitting in
The water.
water, fully clothed.
And then she just lifts
she's
him
so
up
calm.
in his clothes and puts him in the water too.
Yeah, he voices concerns, and she just shuts them down by like putting him in the water.
I just
how
think
nice
that
and
the
warm it is.
steering of this film is so well executed. Like how she appears to be so functional, at the start, and how her unhinged erratic behavior really does sort of creep up, and then it's just that holding of that tension and the building, as you say, and then to trust, like it's so bold to trust, to let it go into the place that the film goes into with the panic and the action kind of sequences. It's so earned. It's
Totally.
we really feel like we watch. We suddenly sort of step back a few steps and get perspective on what's going on in the situation.
Yeah.
But initially, we trust her. We trust her.
And that's the scene where I'm like, she's not okay.
Yeah, me too.
This is all downhill.
That quiet scene, like you said, where you're like, she's not okay, where she's so serene is just as unnerving, almost just as unnerving as when she's screaming, go eat shit, or you disobeyed me.
Because you don't trust it. Like it's the what we've been building suddenly isn't what we thought it was, and it's so she's so untrustworthy in that moment.
Almost like just drowning him in that scene,
right?
Because there's something that's so dangerous about her.
Yeah.
Her veneer is so fragile in that moment. You're like, it could just drop away.
Yeah, and suddenly his, as you say, when we look at the little boy for the first half of the film, we're so concerned about his mental health and about his, behavioral problems. And in that sort of moment, you see the power shift of like, okay, no, he's actually our true north right now. And she's the thing we've got to watch shift away.
Oh, I love him so much. I looked him up and it doesn't look like he's done much else.
Hopefully he's in school having a great time.
Hopefully.
He'll come back to it later when he's ready.
That's great. Selfishly, I'm like, I want more from him. He's so great. I want to see him do everything.
He is really good.
And his character is so smart to board himself up and lock himself and the dog. Unfortunately,
he lets the dog out.
And the dog senses something is up earlier.
Yes, keeps growling at her and won't go to her.
Sixth sense stuff, yeah.
What's his name? Do you remember?
Bugsby.
Yeah, Bugsy. Like the mobster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bugsy is like growling at the mom, knows something's
Yeah.
up. And she's sort of intermittently lucid.
Yeah.
Like the Babadook is in, but she has moments where she seems to feel bad
Yeah.
and remorseful. What does she say to him earlier before she's like fully kind of lost it? She tells him to go eat shit if he's so hungry. That scene's also heartbreaking.
That scene's heartbreaking because he's like, I'm so hungry.
Yeah, he
and
just
there's
wants to
nothing in the
eat.
kitchen.
And he feels sick. He's like, I'm supposed to eat with the pill. You told me
Yeah.
to eat food with it.
But
And she's
also
just-
when he
Isn't
says
it funny?
like,
Just thinking about how much the book, it all sets it up for like, the book is just, it's like a really great Bible telling her the right thing to do.
Right.
It's like, let me in, the stronger I get. It's menacing in its delivery, but ultimately it is what she needed to do.
Except for when it comes back with the revised pages that show her like
murdering the dog,
murdering the dog,
her son, murdering herself.
and then herself. Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes
Which what a great
meta-
pop-up.
Yeah.
Get the red blood coming out.
was
Sometimes the
amazingly
symbolism in that then does throw, like it's a little inconsistent to me.
Right.
The book is actually, because in moments it is giving quite
Good advice.
profound advice, and then it's giving like these. I'm not
What
entirely
does
sure
it
where I
say?
sit
Like,
on
you'll
that.
wish you were dead is the first one.
Once you see what lies
Yeah.
beneath.
Okay.
But ultimately, she does need to let
Yes.
the bubble. That's the whole thing. Is like,
Well, I think
Which is a part of grief, is wishing this is harder. Like I wish it had been me or whatever. Is a part of grief.
Right, totally. Wishing you were dead when you face the real face of
Yes.
grief, which she's not been facing. But I think to your point, because I think you're raising a valid one, I think it makes sense in that the Babadook is like almost the last resort, and she hasn't been facing it. She's needed to let the grief in, and she hasn't. So now it's built up to this monstrous form that could peak in her killing everybody and herself.
yeah, right.
But she does face it instead of just succumb to it.
yeah, right.
And that's what stops her from. It's basically
How twisted does this make me? I empathize with the Babadook in this situation. I'm like, he just needs to be seen. He needs to be
but
heard.
it's true.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
It's kind of maybe it's intentionally a little grey around how to interpret exactly that, like that text and the whether it's the grief or the monster of the grief or the thing that needed love, or I don't know. I think there's so many ways that could be interpreted.
yeah. I think it does need.
But you're right. Maybe it's not so much of a Bible if it's telling her to kill her son. I take that back.
I like it. I like that analysis.
I forgot that detail.
Maybe the first round.
I was like, it's just misunderstood.
draft.
It's just
Yeah, well, we were
misunderstood.
talking about maybe that was her initial working through the grief in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But then by the time she adds those pages, she's unhinged.
she's not good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think it could have been a Bible for herself, and that thing where it can be so easy to dole out advice but not take your own.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of putting that advice out there.
Yeah.
doesn't heed it, and then
Yeah.
it grows into this
Monster.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how we address all of the chaos because there's so much.
Oh my
The
God.
dog runs out. She kills the dog. Fucking hate that scene.
Yeah, I could have done without it only because then she pulls out her tooth and I felt like that was enough.
Achieved the same thing for you?
Yeah, to where I
Interesting.
was almost like putting those two things back to back kind of weakened them for me. I think
Interesting.
one or the other, personally.
I don't want to see the dog die, but I do think it's a better movie with it because
It drives home how high these stakes are to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you can pull out your
Yeah.
own tooth and that's self-destructive, but you're killing another innocent animal right now. Like,
I'm with you. Yeah.
do
And it's
think-
something she loves. You get
Yeah.
the sense that she loves this dog.
Yeah.
In the moments where she feels really alone and scared, the dog is comforting to her.
So maybe for me it would have been better to do the dog and not
no
the tooth.
tooth. Yeah, I could have done without the tooth sound. Yeah, that was the scariest part for me. I think. When I think about it.
I like it. I guess it's the only real bit of gore, huh? Well, he stabs his mom's leg,
Yeah.
but the tooth is really the goriest.
Oh, there's that scene earlier too. We were talking about before in this about how like your brain like playing tricks, where isn't it like she sees her son murdered, and then she screams or the
yeah.
son
Yeah,
screams
yeah.
and she
And then-
looks and she's holding the knife.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
That's so
I
scary.
just got goosebumps
Of
with
like
you
you
talking
can't trust
about it.
yourself.
Yes. That's, I think, almost the scariest thing to me. Like, maybe we've talked about this. The Blair Witch sequel was not good or scary, but that's basically the premise, is that they're doing things that are bad and they don't remember it, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That's like
because
one of
that
the
goes to my
scariest
like,
things.
what if we've all done terrible things
Exactly.
and we don't even know? You
Full
know?
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she could have just been about to kill her son completely unawares.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm glad you brought that up. And then there's also that time where she's watching TV and it's sort of going into this daydream nightmare where there's a news story about a woman who's killed her son and you see her creepy smiling face in the window.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so scary.
Oof.
That's maybe the scariest she looks to me in the whole movie.
Oh, for sure. And then there's that line too where the son is like, "Wake up, mom," and she's like, "No, you're the one sleeping."
I
That's
love
so
that.
disorienting.
I love that. It is.
Where it's like I
Disorienting's the
can't
perfect
tell
word.
what is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in that dream in
Yes.
that moment.
But I guess that's I mean that's so poetic again about like how sort of tenuous your attachment to reality can become when
Yeah.
you're in this level of grief and sleeplessness and who knows which way's up or what time you've woken up during
Right.
the day, and you don't know whether to trust yourself anymore.
I think it's also like the way they say you to lie convincingly is like to slip in a little truth.
Yeah.
And then people are more likely to believe you. And
Yeah.
I think in that moment, the fact, like, she knows someone's asleep.
Yeah.
And that makes the dream more believable, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
truth
yeah.
with the lie. So she can see him asleep, so she must be awake.
yeah.
Oh, God, I love that. I think it's so creepy. So he takes the mom on. He's like running away from her. He stabs her in the leg. He shoots her with his weapon.
Yeah, I kept feeling like he was trying to like snap her out of it. That's
Yeah.
how it felt to me, where he's like hurting her but not killing her. To
Right.
be
Oh
like,
yeah,
wake
he's
up.
for sure like mitigating it the best he can. I think he's just
Yeah.
like, this has to stop.
And he's
I'm going to
saying,
die, or you're going to kill yourself, or something.
"You're not my mother."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I totally agree. I'm
Yeah.
like, this sort of has been your mom.
Yeah.
This is extreme.
And that's
but-
where I think we probably lean into a little more like, people don't necessarily want to think that, but I do think we all have the capacity to do terrible things and be
Yeah.
terrible people. It's in there, like, just thankfully isn't activated in most of
Right.
us. But it doesn't mean it's not a part of her. Like,
Totally. And he's focused on the good in her.
Yeah.
Because he's good.
yeah,
But
yeah. But she has that in her, and hopefully by the end of this film, no spoilers, she is able to, able to kind of, both those things can exist.
yeah.
Well, but it's also like this isn't you. Like killing
Right.
the dog isn't you.
Yeah.
You're in a daze. You're in some sort of
State.
trance. Yes. Yeah, the scene where she's pounding on the door to come in and saying like, "Let me," like,
Oh, yeah.
that's where this
kicks
feels
the
like.
door in.
Well, not even. It's like also she's like banging, and then she grabs up
Yeah.
top and she lifts herself up
Yeah.
to kick the door in. So she's not just kicking it from the ground; she's like swinging around.
She's like the
kicking it.
Babadook.
It's like so animalistic, and it reminded me so much of like possession movies.
Yes, it made me think of like The Exorcist.
Yeah, where it's like
But
her
it's like
body's
the-
not herself.
The creature clinging to the ceiling as he comes into me, that was very much like
Yeah.
it's manifesting, and she's this like little golem.
Well, and
kind of
later
thing.
when they're on the bed and the bed's shaking, made me think of the Exorcist.
Oh, right. I didn't think of it then, but totally. It is this sort of contortion of the body that just doesn't feel human and becomes so scary.
And the noises she's making. It's very like possession.
Yes.
But she's just possessed by this monster of grief.
Yeah. Grief.
All the feelings.
Yeah. Undigested feelings.
Yeah, where she says like, I wish it had been you.
Yes. Oh,
That reminded me of the Hereditary sequence, where she...
I'm surprised you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
it's
a
like
horror
one of the...
movie.
But that's another one I put in this category of like, I found it just a psychological kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, that movie was supposed to be a drama?
I do. And the ending feels very tacked on to me,
Yeah, totally.
which-
I could easily just lose the last 5 minutes of that
yeah,
movie.
I kind of didn't like the ending.
No,
but that's how
but
we
I
got it
loved the
made.
rest of the movie, and
Yeah.
I think the horror thing was incidental for them. That was a psychological kind of...
Yeah.
But the way the mother speaks to the son, it just reminded me a lot of the way this mother speaks to
Yeah,
the
I
son.
totally see that. She gets in. She checks under the bed.
She floats over to him.
Yeah.
He's in a,
Yeah.
That's where now she's moving like the Babadook. And like her voice is, I found all my notes, just getting very guttural. And that's when she says, you don't know how many times I wished it was you, not him, that died.
Poor
Just got to be
Samuel.
like a greatest guilt and greatest fear and greatest everything that
Or it's
people
such a
feel
bummer
all
that
sorts of terrible things. They just
Yeah.
do. Like that's not an. She did feel like that at the time because
Yeah.
she didn't know that being yet. She knew, like
Right.
these things, but it's not. We're not made of our thoughts. Those are just threads that came through
Right.
her. But now she's having to, like, again, that's not one you share.
Right.
Well, and
right.
it
You
doesn't
don't tell
have to
your
be
partner that
either.
one.
Like, you could just be sad that he died. You don't have to be
Right.
like, well, I wish you had died, not him. It could
Yeah.
have just been like, I wish that he had been
hadn't
alive
died.
to see you.
Which is the
Yeah.
truth. That's what
Yeah.
that is what her ultimate goal would have been. I'm
Yeah.
It's
sure.
like such a bummer that in her way of coping, she's picked one.
Yeah, I
And
just
also,
think
like,
it's
I
an
would
intrusive
rather-
thought to
born.
me.
It wasn't
Yeah.
his choice.
That's what
to,
I think. It's
you
an
know.
intrusive thought. Like I think it's just a
Yes.
thing that she has thought and has hated herself for having considered.
Right.
And I wonder if it would have been different if she'd given birth to a girl. If it's like something about having a male, like taking over that position in her life, kind of. If there's like more hostility because he's a boy, just like the dad was, or
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you just hope there's room. There's room for everything. There's room for everyone, and it was a tragic circumstance that took one part out of the
Yeah,
equation.
she just needed to have the like freedom to understand that you can be sad about that and be happy about this. That
Yeah.
you don't have to
Yeah.
only pick one emotion.
Or that you can be sad about that and happy about this if you really let yourself grieve that.
Yeah.
But by
Yeah.
suppressing it, she's not allowing
It casts
herself.
like a pall over the whole
Yeah.
event and the whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then she says, sometimes I just want to smash your head against a brick wall until your brains come out.
Nice one,
Yeah,
Mom.
it gets real dark.
I
read
penny
that
for every
they-
time I've heard that
I read that they shot a lot of the reverses.
about him.
The- yes.
Thank God.
Yeah,
because
thank
and
God.
did you hear what she said? Where she was like,
Didn't wanna
Jennifer Kent was like, I don't
traumatize
want to traumatize a child over
Yeah.
a film, which is great. Like,
I
Yeah, I don't want to take a
ethical
childhood
filmmaking,
for my
man.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was right.
Yeah.
So he has set up this whole trap for the Babadook, this little genius boy, and his mom trips on this like string.
Yeah, the neighbor
wire.
interrupts them first. That's
yeah.
how he gets away.
That's right, the neighbor.
That's right.
Because she got the
Mrs.
call
Roach.
earlier and she's got that gut feeling something's wrong and she doesn't ignore it.
And I also figure she might hear like loud crashing and sounds and stuff because they're not being quiet.
No, she's guttural screaming.
Yeah. So she comes over to check on
It's like,
them.
just checking in. Like in the
Yeah.
best neighborly moment ever.
Yeah. Oh, there's also a quick moment where he sees the dog dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love that he doesn't open the door when she's saying, Bugsy's sick. We need it. Bugsy's
Yeah.
not well. We have to take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm glad he doesn't fall for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Again, just that, like, there's some assuredness in that little boy.
Yeah.
And that's when the neighbor says, I know this time of year is really hard for you. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was like, oh, I wonder.
That's why she's lost her mind.
Yeah, and I wonder if every year around this time she goes a little more crazy
Yeah.
than normal.
Hopefully she didn't kill a dog every year. But
Can you imagine?
I get the feeling that she has been sort of unstable for the last 7 years,
Yeah.
but that it acts up always around
Yeah.
this time of year, but never like this.
yeah. Yeah.
And this is the first year also that the sister won't host a birthday party. So I wonder if like that's a catalyst for it too. Of like,
To your point, Rose, of it being kind of Al-Anon, I think this is like a
You've got
great.
to let that person hit their own rock bottom.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not going to bolster you, keep you afloat just enough by giving you this, by co-signing this bullshit birthday party.
Yeah.
That you do before his actual birthday.
Totally.
Every year.
Totally.
Yeah,
So
because
maybe
Ruby
she's
wants a
right.
goddamn princess party.
But I think, it's kind of doing them a favor in a sense.
Yeah. Got really lucky on the outcome, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but doesn't do Bugsy a favor.
No. And it certainly could have also killed Amelia and Samuel, but it doesn't. It's lucky that it works out the way that it does.
Yeah, and that scene, I knew the neighbor didn't die, but I just was still scared for her.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, just
Were
go
you?
home, go
Because you
home.
hadn't seen it?
Yeah, I didn't want anything to happen to her. I mean, I felt like I hoped it wasn't, and was really happy when it didn't. But
Yeah.
that would have been a horrible turn.
I know. I'm glad they didn't do it. I remembered the dog dying and was dreading it the whole time. And then I was like, are they going to kill Mrs. Roach?
Yeah.
Is he going to kill? By they, I mean the filmmaker.
Yeah, yeah.
The one singular filmmaker. I don't know why we have to pluralize it, because it's hard for women to take credit.
Yeah.
So you have to make it a group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
But so then after she leaves, the neighbor leaves.
I do want to say right before that, though, when the neighbor leaves, that's when she turns and says, I'm sick. And she's like, I need help.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
And
this
then she
moment
goes
where
to
you
kill him.
think,
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
you
that-
think that, like, she's
Yeah, you think it's
been, like,
and I
knocked
looked,
out,
I hit
like-
pause at that moment and saw how long was left. I was like, no, this isn't the
Because that
end.
felt like the part in AA where you admit you have a problem.
yeah, but
But she's still the Babadook. It's not gone.
yeah, but I think that is the beginning for her of like there is an acknowledgement there. She's just
Yeah. Do you guys think
it's like a
'cause
step
I
towards
think
it.
it could be either. I think it could be an act to get him to lower his defenses so she can kill him, or I think it's that intermittent lucidity.
I felt like it was an intermittent. My own takeaway was like that's a step towards where she wants to go, and then she relapses. Like
Yeah, because then she says
she
that
hasn't
thing about,
committed to
like,
it yet, but she's aware that it's there.
Yeah.
I want you to meet your dad.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
so
that's
beautiful there. And she says it, she's still in the same, like, tone of, like,
Yeah.
I'm sick and
Yeah.
Right.
we're going to stay with her and I want you to meet your dad. And, like, he catches on to that.
Yeah, he's like, whoa,
Yeah. Smart kid.
So
Yeah.
creepy.
But that's where I think it's an act.
yeah.
yeah.
I just think she's in my mind she was wrestling with like there's some clarity right there if she wants it, and she can't look into it.
Right.
But
She's just all over the place.
yeah.
And then he stabs her in the leg.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was okay with that bit. I was like,
That's what I was about to
yeah,
say.
she needs to really pump the brakes on this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really satisfying that
Yeah.
he stabs her in
Yeah.
the leg.
Yes.
You're like,
Yeah, I'm just glad he didn't die.
yeah. He's keeping himself alive
Yeah.
and really looking out for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do we get to the basement?
Yes.
She chases him down, trips on that booby trap that he's set
Yeah,
up
like
for
Home
the
Alone
Babadook.
style.
Yeah. But it still doesn't quite knock her out.
But
He
she goes
hits her with
down.
something.
Remember that? And then, then he hits
Yeah.
her with a plank of wood or something.
Yeah. He hits her with something, and then he ties her up.
Yeah, she wakes up
She's
and
tied
she's
up.
all tied up. But not very well
facing
because
it.
he's a child.
No.
Yeah.
What did you say?
But she's facing it, like he's
Yeah.
taking her. He's got the wherewithal to know that she's got to be able to be in that space with this thing,
Yeah, that's
And it
true.
does sound, while you guys are talking about AA and alcoholism and Al-Anon, like the being tied up is also kind of this almost withdrawal. Like she can't,
Yeah.
if the drug is denial, and she doesn't have access to it
Yeah.
anymore. She's facing it. She's
Yeah.
tied up. She can't reach for a drink.
It does very much feel like that to me. That moment, it
Yeah.
feels like she's an addict and she doesn't have her fix. Like, for sure.
Well, because then especially when she starts vomiting.
Yeah.
Which I read an interesting thing that the vomit could also be ink. Again, drawing the book.
yeah,
It's like this black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's deliberate, but it's a fun visual. So before she starts vomiting, she frees herself from one of the constraints, which I like because, why does this kid know how to tie perfect knots? He doesn't.
No, he's
And
just
she
a
grabs
magician.
him. Yeah,
It's just an illusion.
he's so cute. She grabs him by the throat and starts choking him.
And he strokes her face gently.
Oh my God.
That moment.
He
And
does it
that's-
earlier too. When does he do it earlier?
I don't remember, but to me, because I watched the scene twice, because I was like, why does she let him go? And that was all I could come up with, is that like in this moment of her just being
that's to
so
me-
brutal, he shows tenderness.
But that's to me why I have so much empathy with the Babadook in the whole situation, where it's like this thing that all it needs is to be heard and validated, and like to know that enormity and that terror and that violence and that everything is it's not born of nothing, and
Right.
just to be like held, like it's like that. I mean, this is in a completely different way, but have you guys seen that moment? There was like an ex-professional football player who there was a kid at a school brought in a gun. This guy who's now a security guard tackled him, and the boy still had the gun on him. And instead of doing like I'm going to hold him down and, whatever, he just kept hugging him, and he just hugs him until the boy's body relaxes. And it's one of the most moving things I have seen, where you just think of all of these people committing these atrocities right now that need to be held and loved and understood.
Yeah, right.
And,
It's the Good Will Hunting moment.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
That whole scene, which is such a hard scene of like someone being like, no, I know. It's not, and then they just keep saying it until the person breaks down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening with her.
The tenderness on her. Yeah.
Her humanity ends up being stronger than her grief.
Yeah.
And her love is stronger than her
Beautiful
grief.
choice. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And then she just starts spewing, right?
Yeah. She rolls over onto her. She was on her back. Now she's on her front with her arms up, kind of like a dog.
Yeah. And she throws up black. And then it seems like everything's okay.
Which that felt also very like possession movie. Mm-hmm. It's like they usually throw up black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do like the horror elements that keep getting woven in.
Totally.
Well, and we've talked about how possession is
because there's something
very
so
similar
familiar
to mental
and
illness.
yeah, totally.
And how a lot of what has been considered demonic possession was most likely mental illness.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just like looking at these things with a new lens and bringing the horror like tropes and the elements of it. And it's such a clever movie. Like,
and so emotionally resonant, which I love.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel like there's this happy ending, and then he says, you can't get rid of the Babadook.
And then he flies backwards up the stairs, which is so creepy.
I know. What the? Yeah, that I was not expecting that at that moment.
No, me neither.
No, it's like that moment in The Ring when it's like, you let her out or whatever.
Yeah.
You think it's over and it's not.
And then I love she goes running after him, and it's the first time in the movie for me where I feel like he has a mom because she's running to help him.
The bed starts shaking. They're on it together this time. Like now they're kind of in it together.
Yeah, they're like a unit
say,
now.
What do you guys think of the scene where she comes up and the son is like getting smashed around by somebody who's not there? Mm-hmm. If you look at this and it's not supernatural, what's the explanation?
That's what's happening. There's this like level of.
Because I'm like, is it her doing it or is she imagining it's happening?
But to me, maybe it's like that is what it feels like to have this giant wall in between you and another person where you. No matter, even if you're trying to be loving, it's pushing them away because it's driven with such like it's almost like the cockroaches were there and then they aren't. The Babadook's there and now it's not, but it's still got the energy of that like thing that like a cyclone,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And then maybe this is more of a reach, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but the idea of folie à deux, which is like shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. Now I pulled up the Wikipedia. A psychiatric syndrome in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another.
Oh, you mean like my brother and his old lady. Okay, and the cockroaches. Got it.
Well, his was more of a sympathetic lie.
Maybe this boy's was.
Maybe it is too.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see, that being like sort of the physical manifestation of what that feeling is like, to be thrown around by something invisible.
That you can't see. Yeah. Yeah.
By something that preceded you in time that you never get to get face to face with.
And the power of the absence and the fact that he doesn't know his dad.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, because it is like an absent figure throwing him around.
Yeah.
This literally invisible force.
Yeah.
And now she has to face it.
Yeah.
Because she confronts it. What do you want?
Right.
Which reminded me of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Where it's like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. That one I did see. I have seen.
Oh, another name for it is shared psychotic disorder. Okay, never mind. I said sympathetic. Not the same. But same kind of thing, that there's even, if it's by more than two people, it can be called folie à trois or folie en famille
And that's
madness.
almost like hysteria.
Yeah, exactly. How there can be like mass hysteria.
Have you read that book, What I Loved?
No.
It's a really, really good book. But
I want to read
the
it.
woman in it studies mass hysteria. She's like,
Oh, that's
talks about it a lot.
fascinating.
Yeah, I think you'd really love the book. It's
Okay,
fantastic.
I'll read it. I'm going to edit this podcast, so I'll hear it and remind myself. Do you see it more literally, or what was your take on that?
I really didn't know.
Yeah.
That's why I was curious to see like what other people thought, because I could see it. I mean, because there's the part of me that's like, wants this to be the Sixth Sense, where it's like, it's really her doing it and we just can't see it because she is the Babadook, and kind of that stuff of like, it all adds up straight down the line. But it's also a movie that, like, maybe it doesn't all add up. Because some things, once you have someone hallucinating things and we know they're hallucinating, then they're unreliable.
Right.
To me, that's the poetry, though, of it. It's like my mathematical kind of obsessive brain wants to be like, okay, so what exactly does that transfer to? But maybe there is just something in the, like, that's probably why I, and so intrigued by poetry and being able to be okay with the uncertain and being like, this is just, there's elements at play and there's themes and it's not, you can't literally put a symbol on this character. And
see, to me, it states both sides. It feels like a poem and I love the metaphor, but I also feel like it really works on both levels. Like I like that I can fully buy that there's a monster and her grief has maybe created this monster, but that there is a real literal monster, or that this is all just her trying to get through her own grief and depression and isolation, and that it works on both levels to me is such a feat.
Yeah.
I love it. So then she stands up to the monster and says, "This is my house. You're trespassing." Did you write down the rest?
I did. I wrote down all that, but also the monster appears as her husband.
Oh, yeah.
And says all those lines that were said right before he died.
Yeah.
And he's
she
whole
said,
death
she's like,
again.
don't say this, don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
I think it's
earlier,
going to rain.
She saw him in the basement. I don't remember which part, but she
said
sees
something.
the illusion of Oscar, and he says,
Bring me the boy.
I think, oh, they got that part so scary.
But again,
he
it's
says-
delivered sinister, but that's not a sinister thought. If you take, like, that's perception. That's like, he's saying, bring me the boy, share the, like, it's delivered in a way that sounds really menacing. And I don't know if she's intentionally doing this, but this is how I took away quite a few of these moments where in the illustrations in the book and all these things, they're given this really menacing persona, but the intention behind them is actually very true and very heartful. And it's him going, bring me the boy. He needs to be able to understand who I am.
Well, and I love your point earlier, right, that there are multiple truths.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being so bothered at one point with this friend who introduced me once and was like, this is the girl I was telling you about, and clearly had made it sound like I was his girlfriend. It was very weird, and I was not. And I was like, what did you tell this person? And he was like, the truth. And it's like, well, that can mean a variety of things. And I think that really can, like, on the one hand, bring me the boy from a dead man is like, kill him.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, stop keeping me from my son.
Yeah. Let me have a relationship with him.
There's two equal and opposite truths in that statement.
And that seems to be that happens throughout the whole film is it could be perceived as sinister or it can be perceived as a very healthy part of the process.
Right.
I don't know.
And how if you don't take the road that's healthy, it becomes
the thing that's sinister. Yeah.
Well, and down in the basement earlier when we see him, he starts to say that stuff. He says, like, I think it's going to rain, which we find out is what he said right before the car hit him. But we don't get to see that part because she shuts it out.
Yeah.
And then in this scene, she like sits there and she takes all of it and she sees the car coming and she sees him
allows herself to
brutally
relive
get
it.
like decapitated.
Oh yeah, I wondered how they shot that too. They like very
part of
cleanly
his head
slice
comes
off.
Yeah, but it's like her facing that scene finally.
But there is, who says that quote, like, name a fear and it loses its power over you? I mean, I don't know who it is, but I believe that's so, I don't believe many things to be very certain or sure that I'm like, if you acknowledge its existence, it doesn't have the same weight. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
There's Tara Brock talks about, do you love her?
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
And she talks about, with fears, like invite them to
tea
sit
with-
down.
Yeah.
Sit down on the bench
with Mara,
next to you.
yeah.
Tea with what?
Is it Mara?
Yeah. And it's kind of also what you've been saying about having empathy for the Babadook. It's like they just need a little tenderness to express themselves. If you give your fears enough space and just name them, they lose so much of their power.
Yeah.
Well, now she can. It's like now that she's sat there and she's seen the worst of it, which is the husband's death. Now she stands up and says, you're nothing. You're trespassing. Don't
This is
ever hurt my
house.
son.
Yeah, if you go near my son again or if you touch my son again, I will fucking kill you.
Yeah. And then
She's so great.
Yeah, she gets real maternal on it then.
Yeah, it's a real growth for her. And then, he like shrinks.
Yeah, and she goes to check on him because that's when the son's like, don't do it. Don't get, mommy, don't.
He just becomes like the clothes, right?
Yes.
When was that moment, we skipped it earlier, where bits of the clothes just keep falling, like the hat comes and the coat?
Oh, that's before she gets possessed.
Okay. That was a cool moment.
Because she runs in, and maybe I'm wrong, but she runs into the room and she locks the door with a chair, and then she like backs up against the fireplace, and then she looks down and there's a hat.
Yeah, that's right.
And then like it's kind of coming
she's,
down
like,
from the
crawling
fireplace.
away
Yeah, and
from
it gets
it.
on top of
Yeah.
her, and that's when it goes inside.
So this is kind of a compliment to that scene where it's just it's almost like the melted witch.
And I thought this scene was really interesting because this is the first time that we shift and we're now in the POV of the Babadook, which I wasn't sure why or what the purpose was. Because then, why are we in the? I don't know.
I think, and obviously I don't know for sure, but from just a storytelling point of view, this is where she's really stepping into her power. And it makes sense to see it from the Babadook's point of view because she's finally standing up to him or to her grief.
Because we follow the Babadook as she's like screaming at it, and the Babadook is like pushed from the room all the way down the house into the basement, and the door's locked.
Right.
But we have that like POV of going all the way down to the basement.
I love that. I think this grief and sadness and trauma has been ruling her life, and now we see her in command of it.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense to me, that it's we've kind of unknowingly been seeing it from her perspective. Yeah. And to now have to feel shut down by what she's been able to rise above, or something like that.
And maybe even to be seen, like all of the trauma's being seen, and so it shrinks away.
There you go.
Just looking at it.
There you go.
And it withers.
Yeah.
And then we fade to black. Well, she cradles him like a baby too before it fades to black. It's like she hugs him and then she cradles him.
She has the capacity to love. And,
Her son, you're saying.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I said her baby, right?
You just said him, and I was like, wait, are we talking about the Babadook?
Oh, that happens in my version of the
I
film.
would love to see her with like a little top hat, is like by her head as she's cradling the Babadook.
No, I feel like she sort of does cradle the Babadook at the end.
I mean, in my own funny little way, I definitely feel like it's been seen, it's been heard, it's been something's like, as much as she's like admonishing it or sending it away, it's like there's almost a parental thing that's going on there too. It's like
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a thing with kids,
Boundaries.
right? Also like wanting attention, even if it's negative attention, which I think we're seeing from Samuel.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see it from the Babadook.
Yeah, it's like,
Especially
if you don't look
earlier-
at me, I'm going to make you look at me.
when
Like,
Sam's on top of the
exactly.
swing set.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like he just wants attention. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what.
That moment. Oh my
Right.
God.
Oh, brutal. And then it cuts to him like screaming in the back of the car. You don't see if he falls or what happens.
Yeah.
So you're like, it did not go well.
Exactly.
So we start on the dog's corpse and follow it up. And she's like watering the grass above it. The dog's been buried. Which
It's
also,
like a week or two later. I can't quite tell.
Yeah.
Because they say the kid's been out for 2 weeks.
Been out of school for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Right.
So I can't tell exactly.
I think it's been about a week, maybe a week and a half.
something.
Yeah. And I mean, even just burying the dog is like dealing with it more than maybe she had. I mean, I'm sure she's buried her husband, but
Yeah.
probably not with her own two hands.
And it's the use of, like a burial, this symbol of like laying something to rest.
Yeah. And they're watering it, you know, which
And
essentially-
acknowledging it. And
Yes. Essentially, they're like watering the Babadook too, which we'll get to in a second. I'm trying to remember the order now because she goes, oh, he's collecting worms. And she's like, put that one in here. And she goes downstairs and it's an offering for the Babadook who now lives in the basement.
Yeah.
And before we get the people from the school back, and that's where he says that thing about like, it's my first time having a birthday. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, the day I was born was the day my dad died. Which is,
And she doesn't shut him down.
She doesn't shut him
know.
down. She says he's just like his father.
And even,
It's so
like the
beautiful.
whole shift in perspective where it's like the things that he does, the weapon, she's okay with the weapon, like the things don't freak her out anymore because it's like, I've got to be allowed to have my coping strategies and you're allowed to have your coping strategies. And the understanding there is so special.
I love that also contrasted with, because we didn't talk about it before, how funny it is that when he goes, oh, I am not feeling very well because of the drugs she gave me or whatever. She's like, they're not drugs, they're sedatives, which, by the way, doesn't sound much better.
No. And the people are like, okay, we're going to come back.
Yeah.
We seem to not have caught you at a good time. Or something like that.
But now she's fully letting him be himself. And I do love how beautiful
and letting
it is.
them see her grief. Like, and letting them see, it's like just this whole lack of pretense around the whole thing where she's like, this is a hard day,
And
like
throwing a birthday party.
Yeah.
In her house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still this like gray little dollhouse, but there's color in the happy birthday sign.
Yeah.
and I love that shot. It's so
too.
beautiful. I just love that scene. So like heartwarming after this very
Such a
painful.
beautiful into,
Yeah. Then they're outside catching worms. Then she brings the worms to the Babadook.
Well, she tells her son he has to go outside. Which I thought all that was interesting too. Which I was like, what does this mean? Where he's like, can I ever see it or something? And she's like, when you're bigger.
He says, yeah, am I ever going to see it one day when you're bigger? Which I think to mean kind of also what we were saying about Mrs. Roach is like, yes, inevitably when you're older, you'll have experienced loss and tragedy and pain. But right now...
But you don't have to have that in your life right this second. Like, it's the healthy parenting. It's healthy protection.
Yes,
suddenly,
exactly what we're talking about. The balance between you don't want to be a robot and your kid thinks you're not supposed to have feelings, but you also don't want to be a mess and make it their problem all the time.
So they have to live like a wound their entire existence. It's like, I'm going to have a moment for myself, and this is something that's really important for me to do, and it doesn't have to take over your whole existence. Right. That's such a beautiful message to me.
Yes, and like it's okay to acknowledge that there's a monster in the basement.
Yeah.
You also don't have to be the one to feed it.
Yeah, it's the Goldilocks thing.
Yeah.
You just gotta be in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be too emotional.
Yeah.
You can't be not emotional.
Yeah.
Right.
You just gotta find your balance of like what's just right.
Why do you think it's worms that the Babadook eats?
I have no idea. There was a couple things where I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why it's worms. Because then when she comes back, he's like, how did it go? And something. And she was like, what did she say? It was quiet today. Yeah. To where I was like, well, what is actually happening?
So that to me made sense.
Yeah.
I was like, it's because she's faced it and dealt with it, and probably also because this is her son's birthday now. So that's a special day, and the grief is a little quieter. Whereas it could have been louder because it's also the day her husband died.
I figured like it was quiet today in comparison to the years gone by. Like it was in the past, it's roared and I haven't listened, and I went to listen to it and it was quiet, and it was just
it's shrinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
love
is such a powerful movie.
Which it's funny, this was what I hated in the Wikipedia. I was like, okay, so there's this monster and they finally defeat it, but then they just feed it in the basement? What?
I'm like,
and then I saw it. I'm
welcome
like,
to my life.
Right.
Has to be tended to. Like,
yes.
Yeah, your whole...
Yeah, and it does go after her, but it doesn't get her.
And she talks to it like a little boy now.
Yeah, she calms it down.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It's about like, not feeling consumed by something and coexisting with something and
showing up for your grief with tenderness.
Yeah.
And understanding.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
what
good.
What a film.
I don't agree with this, but it seems like it's worth mentioning that somebody was commenting about how he's like so good at magic all of a sudden, and that
that he can turn coins into a bird.
Yeah,
because I was also very impressed with that.
Very impressive.
Also, where was that bird this whole time?
But there's a theory that she did actually kill him and herself, and this is like her dream afterward of everything being so serene and perfect. But I don't subscribe to that.
I don't think there's enough evidence to support that.
I always
feel like personally, I feel like if a filmmaker wants to lead you down a path like that, it'll give you more signs.
And it's too constructive. The whole message of this film is so constructive that it's responsible filmmaking too for people dealing with things like anything that deals with suicides or mental health issues. I always feel like if you're choosing to do that, I don't want it to be revisionist history, but you want to give people who are struggling with stuff an option when they're watching. That it doesn't, I don't think anything is responsible.
This is like the opposite of the Joker to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
It just feels like kind of both stigmatizes mental illness and celebrates violence associated with it. I didn't like the messaging, but this messaging feels much more
to me it's like it's an acknowledgement of things, and it's a it's not foolproof, but there are some options, and there's it wouldn't
it's one day at a time.
She wouldn't kill him in this film.
Yeah.
I
mean, I remember when I first read it, I was like, oh, I could see that, and then in rewatching it now, I'm like, he is really good at stuff. I'm not shocked that he pulled off that magic trick.
Yeah, I think that she's now letting him be. She's letting him be. She'd been squashing magic out of his life.
Right.
She'd been saying, don't be weird, don't be this, and why do you scream at me, why do you do this? And now she's like celebrating his little oddities. And
he was able to get firecrackers on his own. I'm sure he's able to get a mourning dove.
Yeah.
I love with the firecrackers when she's like, where'd you get those? He's like, from the internet. She's like, well, no more internet. And he looks so sad.
Such a fitting punishment right now. Must be what parents use all the time.
The question of the worms. You said you don't have.
I don't know
theories.
I don't know what they represent. Why it's worms.
Yeah, I don't have a strong. I mean, like I could get really sort of speculative on it, but like opening up a can of worms.
Oh, that's interesting. I was kind of thinking of how worms feast on the dead, and now it's sort of like the dead feasting on the worms.
Oh, there you go. That's it.
But I read other people say the predominant theory I've seen online, that was what it felt like to me, but was that the worms come out after it rains, and how the husband kept saying it looks like it's going to rain, and now it's sort of like the rain has passed.
Do you know what? Maybe it's both.
Maybe it's both. I like to think it's both, but I like it. I like the
dead feasting on the worms. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a poet.
You are.
I read that with the short film, which I watched the first time I watched this, and I wanted to rewatch it today, but I didn't get to. But that you have to lip read to get some subtext, because in the short film is called Monster, that the young boy announces, "Daddy's come back," but there's no sound. So it's like his mother just didn't want to hear it and tuned it out, which is also what we were talking about, like blocking stuff out.
Ah, interesting.
So I really want to rewatch the short.
Yeah, I want to watch the short now.
Can we talk about the Babadook as an LGBTQ icon?
Yes.
Do you know about this?
Well,
I looked it up because I was like, I remember seeing all those great things of like and I'm wearing my rainbow shirt. The rainbow flag with like about him like being all happy.
Yeah.
And it said it was
mistakenly.
Yes, Netflix put it under LGBTQ
by accident.
Yes, as a genre.
Yeah. And
it got a ton of attention and people like fans from that, or what happened?
Yeah, people thought it was so funny, and then there's this great, I like this, according to Jessica Roy from the LA Times, the Babadook is creative and a distinctive dresser. Instead of living in a proverbial closet, he lives in a literal basement. He exists in a half-acknowledged state by the other people in his house. The family is afraid of what he is, but finds a way to accept him over time.
See, somebody who empathizes with the Babadook.
Yeah.
Jessica, you and I could chat.
And that's how an icon was born. Yeah, he's like got a whole life now outside of this.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. So when I was kind of looking over this, I saw that there had been like controversy that she didn't get like an Oscar nomination.
Oh.
Because it was released in a way that made it ineligible.
Oh.
I don't know all the details, but the way
it was a straight to streaming.
Yeah, that there was something in how they released it made it like ineligible to be a contender, which is crazy because she's amazing in it. But one of the reviews,
she's a big star in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wondered. I figured you would
One
know.
of the reviews that I read, I loved it, said that in this one movie, she has to play both the Jack Nicholson and the Shelley Duvall in The Shining.
What a great...
Yeah. And then after I read that, all I could see was The Shining. So I was like, there's the kid, and they're trapped in the house, and it's the cabin fever, and the parent trying to kill the kid. And
even some alcoholic themes.
Yeah.
But she's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, she is.
With
Especially
what she does.
Looking at the bathtub scene compared to
her kicking in the door.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's
the different
wonderful.
tax she finds to like carry the message. Like, it's
good.
beautiful.
I read that they were friends because Jennifer Kent was an actor as well, and they went to drama school together. I think she still acts, but
what's Jennifer Kent made since?
She made this movie called The Nightingale.
She made The Nightingale?
Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard so much about that
What
film.
have you heard about it?
Oh my God. No, just like it was a huge film in the festivals in this last year. I just had no idea she made it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's... do you know anything about it?
I saw it.
You saw it?
I saw it.
Okay.
There's a lot that's good about it, and I definitely have thought about it a lot since seeing it. I don't want to watch it again.
Brutal.
And it's the kind of thing where if a woman hadn't made it, I would probably be more angry at it.
Yeah. Oh, I heard about those, sequences.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I think about the most is like one of the scenes in the beginning of the movie. And then it's hard to keep me because I'm so traumatized by this scene early on.
Yeah, I feel like that. I heard that from a few people, but I also heard how kind of magnificent the performances were. And
yeah, I'd love to see what you think.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Watch it.
The Tasmania, the whole story.
Yeah. And I wonder if what you would think.
I don't know. You keep scaring me about it because of how you keep saying.
I did not realize she was the same person. That's a fact. God, I'm dumb.
No, you're not at all. Well, I think there's also this thing of, horror directors usually end up being kind of limited to horror directors. And it's not a horror movie.
No.
I mean,
it's horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like a drama.
Yeah. I'll definitely watch it. I've been meaning to, yeah.
Yeah. To me, it was more upsetting than The Babadook. I mean, there's beauty. Maybe I would watch it again. It was just now that I'm prepared, and I think you might actually like it, Jessica, now that you're prepared. It's like expectations have so much
I
to
did
do
enjoy
with it.
this movie this go round as opposed to the first time where I just thought it was going to be a straight horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just remember all those scenes of her screaming and the kids screaming. Whenever I thought I was not in the right headspace, and I was like, the movie's so loud.
Yeah, and it is.
I have to be ready to see it.
It's an assault on the senses.
Yeah, I have to go into it being like open to that experience.
Yeah, and I think
So if you haven't seen it,
expectations-
go into it being ready for that. Don't go
Yeah.
into it when you're like already you're fried.
Also, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Don't listen to this podcast. Go watch it.
Or maybe, were they going to enjoy it on the back of this podcast? Would they?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe they'll
I feel like we've
more.
walked them through it. They'll definitely know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a nice review from somebody, so thanks for that, saying that they appreciate it when we go in order because it's easier to follow. So we're thinking of you. I think I already know what you're going to say, but if you are anyone in this movie, who are you?
Nothing to worry about anybody, but I think I'm Amelia.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Babadook.
No.
Okay.
No, I do. I think that I am. No, I think that I know my Babadook
Okay, why are you Amelia?
because I know my Babadook. I feel like I'm.
Oh, you're Amelia at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I'm sure that life is long and complicated. There'll be all sorts of journeys, but definitely having. To me, I really related to the idea of like feeling overpowered by my emotions and my fears and trying to build a healthy relationship with those. So yeah, I guess I identify with her for that.
Yeah.
And to try to understand the fears rather than cast them out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
What about you guys?
Jessica?
I feel like I'm a mix of like Claire and Miss Roach.
Oh.
Because I feel like I'm definitely that person that's been like, I've told you the tools and I have to like take care of my family and I can't take care of you all the time kind of thing. But I also feel like I'm Mrs. Roach in the sense of like, but if you really need help, I'm still
Yeah.
like, I'm somewhere in the middle of like, I'm not cutting people out, but I definitely have that limit where I'm like, I've given you these tools and if you can't use them, I can't make you.
That seems healthy.
Yeah. Like you have boundaries like the sister, but care like the neighbor.
But they're not like steel. If someone really needs help, I would help.
You just have a bit of self-preservation.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like a broken record of like, I can't fix you. You have to want to fix yourself.
Yeah.
And I have to worry about my daughter whose nose is broken.
Yeah.
She needs therapy, probably. She's been really mean to her cousin. She's going to need
discipline her
somebody.
too, by the way.
Yeah.
She what?
You need to discipline your daughter too.
Yeah.
That also bummed me
Tell her
out
not
that
to
it's
say mean
like
things.
her birthday. It's her first solo birthday. And instead of like enjoying it, she's like, has to go kick him out of the clubhouse.
She doesn't have to go kick him out.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, what's going on with this little girl? Why can't she enjoy her first birthday by
You know,
herself?
I do think at 6 or 7, I would have been like, if I knew that my cousin's dad died, I'd be like, I'll let him stay in the treehouse, even if it's girls only. Even
But
know
if you've
whatever
been
the rules are.
traumatized by the cousin on and on and on,
And you've had to share your birthday every year. Like you never
Yeah,
get to be
that's
special.
true. That's true.
and you've always been told to feel sorry for him, and you've always been told to like
Right.
whatever. What about
Yeah,
you?
she has a lot of resentment too, the cousin.
You're the little boy.
I am.
You were
I'm Samuel.
you little Samuel.
I'm like just want to be loved and protected and like loves.
That's why you like the scene of him hugging her.
No, it makes me sad because she's not hugging him back. I mean, I love it because it's so like visceral. You just see his neediness so physicalized.
He's also, as much as he's needy and young and vulnerable, he's so much responsibility and it does have a strong little sense of self. And
He does. I don't
a
relate
cool
to that as much, but I would like to.
I'm putting it on you. I'm
Thank
speaking it
you.
over you.
Yeah. You're like, you are a
Yeah,
hero
you have those
too.
bits too, okay?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I also, felt like a weirdo as a kid, and I would cry a lot in school, and
Yeah. Did you trap a dove once?
I did not. I definitely did not. Oh, I guess mostly the fear, how he keeps saying, I don't want anything bad to happen to you, Mom. And how as a kid, I was constantly like afraid of something bad happening to my mom is really what I related to.
Yeah.
What do we think about the significance of stop calling him the boy? Is it that it's just this detachment from him as a person? Like, why does the school and the dad?
I didn't quite get that.
I feel like he's, it was what I was saying before about when something so traumatic has happened, you're often living in the shadow of that the whole time and you aren't your own person, you're a figure in somebody else's story. And he needs his own story, and he's Samuel now, and it's not just the son of the guy who died this way and this.
I like that.
That's what I would
Yeah.
give it.
Thank you so much for watching a horror movie. And
Thanks,
doing this.
guys. You really helped me along on this journey of horror analysis, and I really appreciate it. It's so interesting.
It was so fun to have you. Do you want to promote anything?
Oh God, you can't ask it like that. I just got to incidentally bring it up. You mean that show Woke that I'm doing? Hulu? Yeah, watch that. No, I don't know. What,
And where to follow you?
I'm on social media. I'm Rose McIver, and I am hovering around there on and off. Hopefully a little bit less. I'm trying this year to be slightly more present in my real life. Just trying that out.
That's good.
But I am there.
Cool. Find her.
Yeah, good
Watch
luck
her.
with present.
Yeah, good luck with the present.
It's so hard.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so hard, especially when you have like 10 minutes or something.
Oh, I know. But that's why I'm trying to just think now a little bit more.
It's so hard to like open a book instead of just getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 10 minutes is like not enough time to really get into a book.
But I mean, isn't that when we reflect on what has just happened?
Yeah.
That's the part that I feel like I want to try
We're
to do a
missing
little bit
out
more
on.
is like just digest.
I feel like this is my Babadook of like avoidance is like if I have 10 minutes alone, I don't want to think. I think enough already.
Me too.
just
And that's
wanna
what I'm trying. I'm
Instagram?
challenging.
Yeah.
This is short-lived. I mean, you'll see me on Instagram all the time. But like, it's an intention.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good intention.
No, it's good. Yeah. I have to figure that out.
Is there any reason that people should give this podcast 5 stars and leave a nice review that you can think of?
I think you two are really layered in how you explore things. I think it's there's a lot. No, I really do. I think that you
was
come at
fist
it with
pumping.
so many. Yeah, there was fist pumping. There's just especially like the psychological elements behind horror, like looking into where people are coming from, and I just think it's something I haven't heard before. I think people would really enjoy that, and could hopefully come away challenged or thinking about some of the stuff in their own life, which is rather than just entertainment.
Yeah, all right, that's pretty good. Give us 5 stars.
5 stars,
Check
please.
out Rose McIver's large body of work. You can start with the piano with her having to pee.
Yeah.
Watch 5 seasons of iZombie, and now the new show.
Oh my God, you're going to be sick of the sight of me.
And hopefully your short will be out soon. Let us know
Yeah.
when it's available, and we'll push it on
Thanks, love.
to our 100
Push
followers.
it on.
I appreciate that.
I was going to say we'll
Plug it.
Yeah, we'll plug it. There
We'll
we
plug
go.
it. We'll force it upon people.
We'll shove it down our listeners' throats. You can't
You're too
wait.
good to me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you
thank
so
you.
much. You're a delightful guest. I don't know. I was going
I
to
was
say
going to
next
say, are
week.
we going to Babadook Duke it at the end?
Oh, yeah.
Babadook.
You want to do it again because I was talking over you?
Okay. But we will do it together.
Okay.
Oh.
Babadook. Dook. Really not menacing with the laugh.
Early on, it's like they say ba 3 times. Ba, ba,
Yeah.
ba, do.
When she
I was
reads
getting
the
so
story, she
confused.
says it
Yeah.
like that. Ba, ba,
Yeah.
ba, dook, dook, dook. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, she said it wrong. And then I was like, oh, no, it does say overwhelmed.
I know, but why didn't they call the movie Babadook?
I wonder if there was a
Ba-ba-ba-dook,
executive
dook, dook.
somewhere that was like, no, thank you.
We never touched on, just real quick, even though we signed off, but I guess I can insert it earlier, that it's also an anagram for a bad book.
Yes.
And
Which I
what does
like.
it mean? It means something.
It means something in Hebrew I
Yeah.
saw on
I saw that and I was like,
IMDb.
oh, yeah. Well, because ba is come.
Yeah.
So ba, I guess, would be like come now. Or
No,
something.
there was something. There was another.
Oh, then. And I didn't write it down because I was like, Avital now.
Come. I said like,
it was
in it.
but then,
It was in the trivia. It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
let's see.
Let's see. Sorry, just a second. Hold.
Also, I like that if you switch the D's and B's, it becomes Dada book.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
It's like a book
Like a
all
trivia.
written in response to Dada's death. Oh, death. Hilarious.
Okay.
We love it. It's part of life.
Yeah, got to celebrate it.
In Hebrew, Babadook means he is coming for sure. Is what IMDb says.
Ba means come. So I could see,
He's definitely coming.
yeah, I could see that.
So is that supposed to be like grief? Like he's like,
Yeah,
The grief
like
is
it's
coming for you?
you.
or is it death that's coming for? I don't know.
I thought grief, but death is certainly coming for us too.
Yeah.
None of us are
While
getting
we're
out
on the
alive.
subject, yeah. I really like that as a sort of a pick me up. Actually, like a none of us are getting out of this thing alive. Like
Yeah.
somebody said that to me once, and I was like, oh, what a great. Again, like the worst thing could happen, but
It's going to.
it's gonna. So it just
That's like a great
seize the day.
tagline for the movie of life is no one's getting out of your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
So just let go of that hope right now.
Yeah. Just got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be on Instagram except when you're following all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, just enjoy it. Listen to
By
this
the way,
podcast.
do get on my Instagram. I feel like I sabotaged myself.
No. You get on Instagram, but you're just doing it in moderation.
I think it should have a little safety warning, and I feel like it will in time. Just about
Probably.
like, yeah.
Like
There's that app
cigarettes?
thing where it's like, do you want to know how long you've been on Instagram? And I'm like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Don't tell me.
Yeah. It's
This
good for
comes
us all
back to-
have a healthy check on that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, do you want to know on your deathbed?
Yeah.
I don't
how
wanna
much
know.
time you spent on
Oh my God,
Instagram?
can you imagine?
Definitely not.
No. On my deathbed,
You guys
no.
have, you know that now.
Per day, maybe, so I can change my habits. But when it's too late, please don't tell me that I spent 6 years on
60%
Instagram.
of my life, of my waking life. Okay, cool.
Thank you again.
Babadook.